What's up, everyone, and welcome to GameFace, episode 361 on Sifted Games at Sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield. I'm here to host the next couple hours of awesome video game discussion. Alongside me to do that is Matt Kyle. Between the two of us, we have like almost 50 years of experience covering video games at this point. How many Assassin's Creed games do you think we've played, Matt? At this point,
I've played all of them.
Right. How many have there been at this point with all the spin-offs and?
I want to say this is the 14th one.
Is that right?
Maybe. I mean, I haven't played like all the handheld crap.
There was a couple of handheld ones. There were those kind of like almost indie like spin-off ones. Remember those?
Those side scrollers. I played those. I don't think I played the DS one or the PSP one, but everything else. And I played Liberation, and then I bounced off it because the handheld controls sucked. And then I played the remastered console PC one, and that was much better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I played all of them. I do think it's funny that the new one opens with the 15th anniversary little like montage logo thing, which is cool. I like it.
Yeah.
But that was 2022.
Right.
Yeah. And you didn't release anything.
Oops.
So I guess we're just going to use that until the 20th anniversary. I don't know.
I guess. We haven't figured it out.
They sure lucked out that Jesper Kidd wrote them a banger of a theme song back in the first one. Like, because it's still carrying them.
Still great. Yeah. So we haven't figured it out yet. We're going to talk about Assassin's Creed Mirage on today's show. Also, some gigantic news happened just this morning, which sent me into a scramble trying to get everything together to get it into the show. There's a big story that broke today. We're going to talk about that as well. We're going to talk about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3's multiplayer. I've been playing the beta for the last 4 or 5 days. 4 days, I guess it's been now. We're going to talk about a game that I talked about on the show before that I thought was terrible, and that now that I've played it, I've actually had a change of heart. Which doesn't happen all that often anymore for me after all these years of covering video games. So we have an awesome show for you guys. Pretty excited about it. Matt, how has your week been in general? Playing a lot of Assassin's Creed, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed, Cocoon.
Cocoon.
Forza.
You ended up playing it. What did you end up thinking of it?
It's a video game.
You don't like it?
I don't dislike it, but I don't see what makes it so special.
Really?
It's just another indie puzzle game to me.
Wow. So you're the way outlier there. It's got a 90-something Metacritic.
Yeah, well, okay. So does Baldur's Gate. I think that's not as amazing as everyone else does either. So,
well, I definitely disagree with that one too.
I think
I think they're both awesome.
I think it's fine. It's good, but like I don't know. I'll say this: I would never have sort of attributed any significance to the fact that you only use one button if you hadn't said anything about it last week.
Don't you think that shows you how cleverly designed it is, though?
No, I don't know.
That never even dawned on you? You're only using one button the whole time?
Not really.
That's like genius.
A couple of times I've been like, it would have been nice if it was a different button to swap the orbs or something, just to make it a little less hold the button. It would get me there faster.
Yeah.
I can tell it's by someone who did Journey.
Yeah.
Like there's the DNA's there.
Yeah.
But like, I just don't find it that. I don't find it that clever, frankly.
Interesting. Well, you're a huge outlier there on that one.
It's cool, yeah. Don't make me wrong, but it's cool. But like, okay. Like,
why do you think your opinion's so different on it from everyone else?
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I just don't see what's different. Like, sort of like I felt about Inside. I don't see what's so different about
I'd agree with that game.
I don't see what's
this one.
I just don't see what's so different about this and what a bunch of other games I've played, or like I don't see a lot of difference between this and like the usual puzzle solving thing like Grease or Tunic or
I think it's
like that.
Sort of the world upon world puzzle solving, the dimensions sort of.
I guess, but that's just, it's just switching maps. Like aesthetically it's a cool idea, but like mechanically as a game, like I don't know. It doesn't overcome my ability to see the levers and pulleys behind the set. If that makes any sense. Like,
I mean, I know what you're trying to say. But I don't necessarily agree with it, but
right.
I know what you're trying to say.
I don't know. It just doesn't. Like,
that's
it's
too
cool.
bad. I'm really disappointed to hear that. I really thought you would like it.
It's cool. I don't. It's like I would give it like an 8.
Like okay, I mean, that's still pretty good.
Yeah. It's not,
I thought you were talking like 4s or 5s here, the way you're just talking about
but
it.
Like, if you tell someone who thinks this game is the most amazing thing they've ever played that you give it an 8, they act like you're giving it a 4.
Oh.
Much like Baldur's Gate.
It's only the Metacritic's only at 1 point higher than what you you're rating it.
Right, but that's a gulf to someone who thinks it's the greatest thing they've ever touched, which is...
Well, I don't think anyone said that about it.
I've seen 2 people say that.
Oh, wow.
I've seen 2 people say it's the best thing they've played all year, and one person...
That's probably a stretch.
And one person say that it's the best thing they've played all decade. Which is only 3 years.
Okay,
which is only 4 years.
From that perspective, I agree with you. They're way out of bounds, but I think the game's great. I really enjoyed it. And again, it's on Game Pass.
I mean, it's good. It surprises me that anyone thinks it's that special. Because it's...
I mean, I honestly can't think of another game like it, Matt. Like you said, Grease. I don't think Grease is anything like this game.
I mean, it's side-scrolling instead of top-down, but I just don't... I don't know. Like, it's cool, but it doesn't stand out to me the way something like Hades does, or...
well, Hades was Game of the Year.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, not to me, but...
to a lot of people it was
up there.
Yeah.
But, like, again, so I'm picking a Game of the Year to say that stood out to me as a Game of the Year. This does not. It's just... It's cool. It's a nice little game.
What indie games have you liked more this year?
Dave the Diver, for sure. That's not really an indie game because Nexon made it, but like...
I think it's an indie game.
It's not. I mean, it's funded by a giant international mega corporation and made by a developer.
It's an indie-style game.
It's absolutely styled, but it's the same way. It's like... indie either means what it means or it doesn't. Like,
I don't think it does anymore. I think people, when you say indie, they're just like, oh, it's like a cool concept. It's not, the production values aren't crazy out of the stratosphere.
That's not what I mean. But I mean independently funded.
Literally,
I mean
like
independently
they didn't pay
funded.
for it themselves.
Yeah,
I don't think that's useful for people, though, Matt. People don't care how it's paid for. They want to know what is the game.
Well, then we need a different word because indie means it literally means independent.
I mean, I use lower budget sometimes to describe games like that.
Yeah, but again, David the Diver wasn't particularly low budget.
I mean, way lower than
Cyberpunk, which is an indie game. CD Projekt Red is an independent studio,
and that's why I don't think using it in that way is useful for people, because no one's going to look at Cyberpunk and be like, "That's an indie."
Well, it
game.
depends. If you think the importance of an independent indie game is that it's independently funded and not part of the giant megacorp system, then it is important.
I just don't think people care.
If you just mean,
I just think people want to know what kind of game is it to play.
Well, then indie doesn't mean anything one way or the other. It's just, and you can see that Dave the Diver's a pixel art game, so all you got to do is describe how it plays at that point. Yeah. Which I don't think we need a term for that genre because no one else is ever going to make another Dave the Diver except maybe Nexon.
Well, I think there'll be a sequel to it.
Probably, but I don't think that's going to be one of the you're not going to need a Metroidvania term for that one.
Yeah,
but which is unfortunate because I would be interested in more, and like a space version of that.
Yeah, that might be cool.
Maybe that's what the next one will be: space Dave the astronaut.
Yeah,
but no, it's nice. I just didn't. Like, if I had played that just sort of on my own and you had told me that that's one of the highest rated games of the year, I would have been stunned. Like, not that it would have gotten high ratings, but like that it was that high is surprising to me.
Okay.
Maybe people just needed a palate cleanser after all this AAA stuff that
Maybe
we've been drowning in.
The good news is, and I know people get angry when I say this, you can play it for free on Game Pass. For some reason, people get their stick in the mud over saying things are free on Game Pass. But
because Game Pass isn't free.
Right.
So I agree with him on that. It's just, you'll notice I never say that.
Yeah.
You say that.
Yeah.
I don't. It's on. I say it's on Game Pass.
Yeah.
But it is not free. You have to pay for Game Pass.
Well, I think that's sort of it's the same discussion as the indie.
Right. Absolutely. because words mean.
You're being a stickler for the very definition of it.
I just believe that words mean things. So.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I do too. I'm a journalism major.
Well, again, if I were your editor, I wouldn't let that one slide.
What, using free
on Game Pass? Indie, I probably would.
I mean, you kind of have to, or you'd probably be fired.
It means a bunch of different things.
Let's be honest. But anyway,
otherwise you need some editor's notes like crazy on something like Dave the Diver, because people are just going to look at that and be like, "Oh, it's an indie game." Well, actually, it's run by the giant Nexon Corporation, which for some reason started funding weird little games to play on non-Nexon platforms.
Well, the thing about Nexon is like it's only a big publisher in Korea. Here it really is kind of an indie publisher. It's small, like it doesn't release a lot of games. Like a lot of its games are free to play. Like the perception of Nexon here is way different than it is overseas.
Yeah, but it's still $1 billion mega corporation.
Yeah, it still has a lot of money for sure. So anyway, hope you guys have had a great week since the last time we got together. Hope you guys have been playing some great games. We definitely have been playing a ton of games. Some of them great, some of them not quite as great. Let's check in with you guys and see what y'all are saying. To kick off I can't do that yet because I did not send you guys into our TriCaster. Give me just 1 second and I'll get you guys in here. I saw some people in the chat didn't even know the big news that hit today, which means you have knocked on to Sifted.net this morning because it is right there, front and center. If you're wondering what I'm hinting at here with all the big news. That's what I'm talking about. It's the biggest story on Sifted right now. Okay, we got you guys in here. Supermaster Gamer, thank you for Twitch Prime. 52 months, that's awesome, man. We appreciate it. What else we got here? People talking about Cocoon. Any other Twitch Prime? Texture Glitch, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Talimper, thank you. Big Dave Lazard, thank you. Vincent listing out all the Assassin's Creed games. I can't tell what number he came to there, though.
So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13 for Mirage, 14 if you count Liberation.
Okay.
Which I would, because it did get a console release.
Yep. Johnny Hurricane, what's up, brother? Hope you're doing good, man. Thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. Eric Cartman is here crying. Sour Grace from Eric Cartman is Steelers would be winless without J.J. Watt. The funny thing is, it's T.J. Watt, not J.J. Watt. Number one. And number two, you're seeing your hopes of winning our bet going down the toilet. And now you're scrambling.
Also, the 49ers wouldn't have been as good in the 80s without Joe Montana.
Yeah, it's okay.
But they did have Joe Montana.
If the Steelers didn't have the best defensive player, they wouldn't be good.
I guess you might win the bet against alternate universe Shane, but not this one. So
that's 3 wins for the Steelers. I got 6 more to go before I win our $50 bet. And I'm feeling pretty damn good about it. What another thing?
You should know better than to bet on football against Shane.
Well, betting is I don't even bet.
I know when and when not to engage you in a game of chance, sir.
Well, the funny part is I never bet on football because it is so random. Nobody's good at it. All my buddies are gamblers. They all lose their asses. And the way I look at it is if they want to spend their money to be entertained,
but my point
I'm
is,
fine with it.
But my point is when it comes to football, if Shane's willing to take the bet, you should not make that bet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's probably thinking Shane's a Steeler fan, so he's being a homer, but I'm actually not a homer.
Yeah, but you don't do that.
I look at the Steelers maybe more critically than I look at other teams. I never, overinflate, what I think they're going to do. And maybe he thought I was doing that. I don't know. But all I need now is 6 more wins and I win the bet. And they have a ton of games left against a bunch of really bad teams.
I've seen you outright criticize the entire method of the Steelers' defense and how they've been run for years on end right after doing the big nasty D cheer before a big play. And that something happens, and you're like, well, actually, this is it because this, and this, and that's not going to happen to that. But big nasty D, go! And it's
I'm still going to root for him. Yeah.
It's just,
yeah. So anyway,
you're very open about how hopeless it is when it comes down to that.
Yeah, I'm very honest about the Steelers. But anyway, honestly, I think it's going to come down to the last couple weeks. I think the Steelers are going to win 9 or 10 games. I don't think they're going to win 14 or whatever. So I think it's going to get close. But I don't think you thought it was going to be close, and I think you're starting to sweat a little bit. So we'll see how it goes. But it should be fun to follow throughout the NFL season. But my Steelers are 3-2 and number 1 in their division, and I'll take it because they really are not very good.
It has been fun watching my friends up north talk about the Niners just because of how weird.
Well, they're just dominant.
With Mr. Irrelevant, who was not supposed to be any kind of anything.
The very last draft pick in the draft is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. It's pretty awesome. Andy T. Monahan, thank you for sliding in there, subscribing at Tier 1. That's awesome. Justin Horman, thank you for subscribing at Tier 2. That's awesome. What else we got here? I think that's it. I think that's all we got. AJ the Legend says, hope Shane rolls out October 22nd for Steelers versus Rams. I'm thinking about it right now. The Steelers are playing here in LA in a couple weeks, and the tickets are insane. The prices are crazy. I'm going to try to make it. We'll see. As of right now, though, the prices I think are too high. I just can't really afford to go, which sucks, but that's kind of where we're at with the NFL. Ticket prices are just outrageous. So we'll see if I can find a cheap ticket on StubHub the morning of the game. Maybe I'll slide in there. And if I do, AJ, we will meet and we will tailgate together. I hope your Rams fan friends aren't going to hate me for tailgating with you. But I harbor no ill will against them. Hopefully they can say the same. So anyway, I think with that, it's time to get on with the housekeeping for today's show. I was teasing a little bit about a big story that broke this morning, and that big story is that the PlayStation 5 Slim is real. It is absolutely real. We showed it to you not that long ago on the show. Somebody on Twitter had posted a video of a new PlayStation console. The person who posted it didn't even really know what it was, which is kind of the crazy part. And as it turns out, it was the PlayStation 5 Slim. So I'll start going through some of these images here so you guys can see it. Notice when it lays on its side, it has a little kickstand, Matt. Do you see it there on the front? Isn't that weird?
Is it a kickstand or like a plastic stand that goes underneath it?
I mean, yeah, but it's a kickstand or whatever.
But is it like, what I'm saying is like, is it a long wedge?
No, I think you like snap it onto the console. I don't think it's like built into the console.
No, but it's not, because it looks in the picture, it almost looks like a little peg.
Yeah.
It's like an actual kickstand, but I imagine it's an actual long wedge of plastic.
It looks like something you just snap onto the console and it just kind of keeps it from rocking back and forth. But I don't know if you guys remember that video. The case was cut, and we were like, wow, that's weird. Would they do it that way? Well, absolutely, they did end up doing it that way. Here is an image of So the news is that this is replacing the current PlayStation 5. Both disk drive and digital versions of the Slim are on the way. They're coming in November. The difference here, though, is you're seeing the digital version right now, and you can buy a Blu-ray drive separately to attach onto your digital-only console and turn it into a disc-based console. So now you have the option of turning it into a disc-based console if you want to, and obviously they built the plates there to fit around the drive if you decide to install it. I'm guessing if you don't have the drive, that space is just empty in there. But pretty clever how they've done that, I think. And it does give people options. Now, the catch here, though, is that the digital version of the console is now an extra $50. But the other catch is both versions of this new console have 1 terabyte of storage space. So you're getting the extra 320 gigs or whatever the hell it is for free with the disc version for an extra $50 on the digital version with the option to use the external Blu-ray drive with the console if you want to. Matt, what are your initial impressions of this?
Still ugly.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, who cares is sort of my reaction to that. I mean, I know you say it's like a big, but genuine question. Why is this big news? Other than the leak was correct again. Because leaks are always correct all the time.
The funny part is that the big news to me is the extra hard drive space. Seriously. Yeah. I am so sick of deleting crap off of my PlayStation 5 hard drive. I still haven't installed like a little like mini drive like I got you for Christmas last year. I still don't have one. So I'm constantly, especially right now with all the games coming out, I'm constantly deleting stuff to make stuff fit on my PlayStation 5. So that terabyte hard drive makes a big difference for me. But otherwise,
I'm going to have to make a big decision when Spider-Man 2 comes out.
Why?
Because my drive's full.
Well, have you installed the one that I gave you?
I have not.
Oh,
but
well,
even if I had, it would still be full.
That's an extra terabyte, though.
Well, it replaces the existing one.
No, it adds on to it. It's additional.
Does it? I thought you replace it.
No, it's additional space. Yeah. So you'll have 1.6 gigs or whatever after you install that, which should be okay. Like, it's a hell of a lot better than just 0.6. I'll tell you that much.
I usually just I copy this stuff over to the external drive and just copy it back when I want to play it. That's what I did with Horizon. Horizon's gigantic, so
almost all games are anymore. The file sizes have gotten out of control, which is really the big problem, honestly. My question, Matt, is what happens with the PlayStation 5 plates now?
I guess they just sell new ones.
You think they're going to sell new ones for these new models?
Well, they'll have to.
Yeah?
Or they'll stop selling plates, I guess, but like... considering you have the modular plate option for the added disk drive, like it seems like that's already built into the thing. Like you can swap the plates out. Yeah,
they haven't announced anything about that yet.
Well, one thing at a time.
Yeah, some more information about it though. According to PlayStation, the new console was reduced in volume by more than 30% and in weight by 18% and 24%. Depending on which model you get, either the digital version or if you get the disc drive version. It's coming in November, as I said. The price for the disc drive version is the same. The price for the digital version is $50 more than you're used to. Of course, as I said, 1 terabyte of storage for both of those editions. Let's see. I don't think they've said yet. Oh, okay. They have announced the price for the Blu-ray disc drive. So the standalone Blu-ray disc drive is sold separately for $80 or €120. So it's a little bit more if you're in Europe than it is here, but $80 for an external Blu-ray drive, that's not terrible.
No, but
you might as well just buy the disc drive version. Yeah. I guess you are saving $20 there.
$20 if you do that.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know. Like
Yeah, there's also a new stand.
It does look better without it, but
yeah,
who cares?
This is a new stand that they have for both vertical and horizontal. Although for horizontal it doesn't work. That's why you need that little kickstand piece of plastic that you use.
I mean, it looks nicer than the original.
Yeah.
Little metal brush there.
Yeah, this is the horizontal stand, and then you have to buy a vertical stand separately, which
classy.
You don't really need it. When I stand up my PS5 without the stand, it's fine. Like, you don't even need a stand really to set it vertically if you want. But if you do want the stand, that's an extra $30 as well. I guess Sid Schumann said that to address the evolving needs of players, our engineering and design teams collaborated on a new form factor that provides greater choice and flexibility. I guess I would agree with that.
I guess.
It gives you more options at least. And then he continues, the same technology features that make PS5 the best to play are packed into a smaller form factor, along with an attachable Ultra HD Blu-ray drive and a 1 terabyte SSD for more internal storage. So, yep. And they say once inventory is sold out for the current launch PlayStation 5, that's it. The new model will become the only one that's available. Mm-hmm. So,
what did I think we expected?
But there's like 40 million of the OG version out there, so there's a lot of people who have not bought plates yet for their PlayStation. So maybe they just are like, we just discontinue it and everyone just has to buy the white
I don't
slim.
think if anyone who really cares has already done it.
Yeah.
Like most people I know do not give a shit. Like, even if you put black or whatever plates on that thing, it's still ugly. So.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd agree with that, but it definitely looks better with black.
I think it's one of the worst looking consoles ever made.
I think having
which
a different color.
I didn't really think when it launched, but like as more and more time has passed and the luster of the new have worn off it, every time I look at it, I'm like, you are one ugly motherfucker.
I'll be honest. I feel like most PlayStation consoles aren't all that attractive.
No, they aren't.
The PS4 was so simple that it couldn't really be ugly or attractive.
Yeah, but at least like it's the first PlayStation console that I feel like non-gamer people look at and go like, what the fuck is that on your shelf?
Yeah.
Like,
what is that? Yeah.
Like what and not in like a good curious way. And like why do you have this giant slab of nonsense on your it's just
some people may think it's like an incanter or like an incense like burner. I mean, it's pretty funny.
Like somebody trying to talk into it like it's an Alexa thing.
But go back. I mean, look at the PlayStation 3. People made fun of that, thought it looked like a grill.
Yeah, I mean, that's also an ugly console.
PlayStation 2 was kind of like PlayStation 4. It was so simple, it was hard to say it was ugly or attractive. It's just there. But PlayStation 1 wasn't a good-looking console.
No.
Like, I don't feel like Sony's hardware engineers are really aesthetically all that good, but they do make good hardware ultimately.
I did like the PS1, like the mini revamp they did late in its life.
The really little one?
Tiny little white one.
It almost made it look like a CD Walkman.
Yeah, I kind of like that one.
Because they're so tiny.
Yeah.
It was so crazy, but it's like carry it around almost in your pocket and take it to your friend's house to play.
And I mean, I have like the scene one of those the old gray PS1s like makes me angry because I had to fight that thing so much to make it play, turn it upside down, lean against things like and then you'd see it forever at like various like people DJs carried the original around with the 3 RCA outputs forever for whatever reason they believed the audio was better or whatever.
Yeah, coming out of the PlayStation, the reader, the eye on it was like way better than what you're getting in like when professional CD players.
My original one broke and I got a new one because I didn't feel like sending it back to Sony and waiting 3 weeks or 6 weeks to get the repair in. And so I just got a new one, and it was the new one with the new plug. It didn't have the RCA outputs. And my friend, who was a DJ at the time in the East Bay, was like, "Do you want that?" I'm like, "It doesn't work, dude." He's like, "I will fix it. I know people who can fix it. I'm like, "All right, sure." Like, he gave me like $80 for it. Like it was at the time you could get like maybe 30 if you traded it in, but he gave me like a lot of money for what it was.
Yeah,
and I didn't find it till later. It's like it was a big DJ thing.
Yeah. Yep. So I don't really think this changes the fortunes of anybody, this new model.
No.
I mean,
you might end up having to buy it if you wait long enough, I guess.
Well, I mean, honestly, what it really did is it increased the profit margin on the hardware for PlayStation.
Right. It didn't benefit us at all.
But it benefited PlayStation. Because it's like, look, we'll tell people this is the new model, and only the digital version goes up in price, but meanwhile, we're making it for way less. And now we can actually maybe turn a profit on our hardware instead of losing money on the hardware or breaking even on it. So it's working out for PlayStation and Sony, not necessarily for anybody else, although I would argue a lot of people do think that PlayStation 5 is too big.
Yeah,
so aesthetically, it may be a little more attractive to some people, but But overall, I agree with
that
you.
Slim's smaller, but it's still too big.
Yeah. But overall,
the form factor makes it awkward because you can't really integrate it into like an entertainment center and have other things like I've got other stuff on top of my PS4 or like that kind of the Xbox One. I had like action figures standing on but like both of these new systems, they're not even really new anymore. They're 3 years old, but like especially the PlayStation when it's on its side, it's like you're just devoting the size of a dinner setting, a place setting to this console, and there's nothing else you can do with that space. It's annoying.
Yeah. We got some comments in chat. Cantano says he agrees with you, or she. I don't know if Cantano's a guy or a girl. They agree with you that they don't like seeing the PS5 next to the rest of his hardware. NET Monahan has a question. So is the current digital PS5 model useless if the attachable drive isn't compatible?
I can't imagine it's compatible.
Yeah, because it doesn't look like it's a cable that plugs into like a USB port.
No, it looks like it plugs in.
It hard wires into what looks like the slots. Motherboard. Yeah,
like it looks like a cartridge.
It does. Yeah, so I'm guessing it's probably not compatible with the old digital one. And also, I mean, I don't think there's any port on the digital PS5 that would be fast enough to really send that much information.
Yeah,
I don't think it's feasible.
I would be surprised if it was compatible.
Yeah,
I really
me too.
don't think so.
What else we got here? Kevin Roth asked, does the disk drive work for the current version? No. Yeah. We already kind of went over that.
I really don't think so.
I don't think so.
And even if it did, how would you put the plate over it? Because the plate's totally different.
Yeah. Noxatornitis says that someone's saying the Pro is coming next winter, so stay tuned. That will be the bigger story, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what that even is, though. Like, the only thing you really need to get working is DLSS or equivalent.
Yeah.
I mean, a power boost isn't going to be as important as getting like those frames rendered smoothly.
Yep. Vincent is asking if the $500 version's drive is detachable. It doesn't look like it.
I mean, you'd have to take the panel off and see.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, it would make more sense if they were the same thing. The same model, like, so I would guess it probably is.
You think so?
Yeah, but you'd have to
you're probably right, actually.
But you'd have to buy a flat panel.
You're
to put
right,
on.
unless it comes with both panels. Maybe.
Yeah,
which is possible because if you're going to put two panels in with the digital one, then
I don't know if you. I don't think you do put two panels in the digital one. I think the disk drive cover panel just comes with the disk drive.
Well, there was right here. You can see. There's the digital version without the hump. So either...
Is that the Slim?
Yeah, those are the Slims.
Where's the brake?
The what?
Where's the brake in the middle?
Oh, you're right. You're right.
That's the normal version.
Yeah, let me go back to the trailer. At the end of the trailer, it shows them.
Yeah. So you basically... I think when you buy the disc, the Blu-ray drive, it comes with that humped panel to put over it. But if you get the digital...
But see, there is a digital version without the hump.
Right.
So you're getting two panels.
No, I don't think you get a hump panel with the digital version.
Oh, so you think you buy the drive and then the panel comes with the drive.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. Which means, that you wouldn't get an extra plate with the disc base version.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. You're probably right, Vincent. You probably can remove the drive if you want to, but why would you want to? Maybe to take it to a friend's house or something?
It does look better without it, but...
Without the hump, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you have the disk drive version, but you're not going to use the drive, you could take it out. I don't know.
I guess, but you need to find a way to get a flat panel.
Yeah,
because I bet it doesn't come with that.
Or you have to buy the extra plates from PlayStation or whatever it could be. Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That's the PlayStation 5 Slim. Again, it feels like a big deal, but you really start thinking about it and talking about it, it's really not. I also agree with the people in chat who are saying that the bigger deal is going to be the PS5 Pro that is rumored to come out next year. But the other thing, Matt, that I really realized is that there's no surprises in the games industry anymore. There really aren't. It's really hard to have a surprise anymore. Like we showed you.
Gotta take the surprise as the leak.
Yeah, you're right.
Be surprised by the leak.
Yeah. If you remember, we showed you this like 2-3 months ago. Some dude on Twitter had it. He had the cases anyway. And we talked about it for like 20 minutes, and as it turns out, it was legit. Like, almost every leak is true anymore. It used to be like 10% of leaks were true. Back in like the N64, Xbox 360, those eras, like, leaks were way less reliable than they are now. Like, I feel like there's hardly any surprises, which is a little disappointing. But I think as a consumer, it does help you kind of make informed decisions at least. Andy T. Monahan asks, how many people are going to try and buy the current digital, assuming the drive is compatible with it? I don't know. That's messaging. That's what PlayStation's going to have to do.
I don't think it is compatible with it.
No, he's saying that like people will buy the drive thinking they can attach it to their old digital version, and they're going to realize that they can't. I would assume the packaging on that external drive is going to have on it real big, not compatible with original PS5 digital. That'd be my guess. But if they don't do that, that could be a huge mistake.
Well, at a certain point,
that's a job for the Duck Consulting Agency.
At a certain point, if you're buying like hardware of this price level, you got to not be an idiot.
Yeah.
So
you would think. I don't know though. Maybe you have more faith in humanity than I do at this point, Matt.
I don't, but I just don't have any mercy on these. If you do that, too bad.
Yeah. Red Hawk 1985 is saying he's trying to give Twitch Prime, but he don't know if it's worked. All you need to do to see if it worked is just go to our channel page and try to watch any of the episodes of Pachter Factor. If you can watch Pachter Factor a week early, that means that it worked. And also keep your eye on episodes of Pachter Factor to have your name running in the bottom on the crawl, because we'll get you in there. And thank you very much, by the way, for doing that. We really, really appreciate it. Digital Reflux says that's on the consumer. No, the manufacturer has to at least have it on the box. Like, they can't just ignore it.
It doesn't matter what's on the box if the consumer's that dumb.
You're probably right. Yeah. I mean, I don't think most consumers don't watch GameFace. They don't go to IGN. They're just like, I want to buy a PlayStation 5. And like, oh, now I want to make sure I have a drive for it. Like, I think maybe we oversell how informed the average consumer is compared to our audience, but...
I mean, odds are the consumer that is so uninformed they don't know that is also not going to be sophisticated enough to care whether something's on a disc or not.
Yeah.
Like, they aren't going to even know to buy that. Like, and at a certain point, the guardrail on that is going to be the employee who's going to, like, say, like...
At GameStop or whatever.
Well, if that exists anymore.
It's really starting to look like it may not make it to the end of the year.
I mean, I've been saying that for 10 years.
GameStop is in deep trouble. Yep.
Like, Best Buy people are going to know one way or the other, like, usually.
God of
not.
Gamblers 33, so you do gamble on sports, says they have to label these consoles as the Slim so people don't get confused with the launch digital versions. I agree with that as well. Yep.
Assuming there's any launch digital versions around.
Yeah.
I mean, these things still sell out.
Yeah, I mean, the crazy part is, like, I still don't see PlayStation 5 sitting on store shelves.
It's not like there's a big surplus of these things waiting around to go home. Like,
right. Yeah.
This is going to be pretty much an instantaneous swap.
It's like hand to mouth with PlayStation 5 still. So, yeah, that should help. Actually help the consumer ultimately. It's the first time that has helped the consumer throughout this entire ordeal for people trying to find PlayStation 5s, which has gone on way longer than it should have. So, anyway, there you go. That's the PlayStation 5 Slim. Once again, we broke this story like months ago. You guys knew about this quite a while ago, but it was almost like I think people just didn't believe it. But as it turns out, once again, a leak was accurate. And I really struggle to think of many leaks from the last few years that were not accurate. But here's one that might be, as we move on in our housekeeping. Second story for housekeeping is that a listing was found for The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. This was another case where an employee...
That was an employee put it on their resume.
It was on LinkedIn or whatever. Yeah, their LinkedIn listing. Which usually means those are like 95, 96% accurate. No one's going to put something on their resume if they actually haven't worked on it unless they don't want to get a job. I mean, some people might, but it'd be really dumb. But anyway, it appears that The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is on the way. Matt, we talk about this all the time when we talk about remastered games, about whether it's soon enough or whether there's enough time has passed. How do you feel about this one? Because this game still looks amazing.
Still looks pretty good. I think you can probably pull a little bit of more specialty out, especially if this is on the way for the Pro, which is what they did with Last of Us Part 1's remastered. Taking advantage of whatever the Pro may offer, if that turns out to be true next year. Like real
ray tracing.
Yeah.
Ray tracing that works.
Yeah. I mean, legit. And having something Last of Us on the shelves for people who watch the show to buy. Especially when your second season is probably going to mirror Part 2 pretty closely in places.
Yeah.
It makes sense from a business perspective to me.
Yeah.
Am I thrilled to pay $70 again for that? I mean, sort of, because I think it's one of the best games ever made.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, I mean, I understand if you don't want to. I get it. Like, and people are making very weird comparisons with this, where it's like, well, how come it was only 3 years before they remade Mario Kart 8 for the Switch, and no one cared about that? And it's just like, well, the Mario Kart 8, the remake.
I mean, it wasn't really remade.
Well, it was a port over.
It's a pretty lazy port. It doesn't look really any better,
right? But
than the Wii U version.
But the point is, you can't fucking play the Wii U version on the Switch,
right?
It's a fucking
dead
disc.
platform. Yeah, it's
like, you can't put a DVD into the Switch.
Yeah.
You can put Last of Us Part 2 on the PS5. Like, it's not a meaningful comparison.
I just struggle to find where the remaster would be meaningful. I mean, this game is stunning. It is still probably top 5 best-looking games on the market.
Yeah, but Naughty Dog never sleeps on that kind of thing.
That's crazy. I mean, look, you're right.
I think it has to be in conjunction with the Pro. That's the only thing that would, because
or maybe they're going to bundle it in with the Pro or something.
No, they can definitely sell this separate. But I think it will be one of the things they use to show off what the Pro can do.
Yeah.
Versus like the little, because look, the power jump on this thing's not going to be
gigantic,
astronomical. You're going to need comparison things to show, oh, the ray tracing looked like this and now it looks like this. It ran like this frame rate and now it runs at this frame rate. Like games that like this are going to be helpful for that.
Yeah.
I'll bet you're going to see a Spider-Man 2 update, not a remaster, but an update.
You're right. A year later,
like Insomniac's going to do some kind of update where it's like, now the ray tracing works right, like they did with the original, where it's like, now you can play. They did that mid-range thing where the ray tracing's still on, but it runs at 60.
Yeah,
and it just sort of balances the settings.
Yeah,
something like that. So I can see that. So yeah, I think this is probably going to be sort of the flagship title for the eventual the Pro, assuming that exists, and it seems to, because it seems to be the guy reporting on that seems to know what he's talking about.
Yep. So this game is still just so stunning. Watching this B-roll again, look at this. Like, the water moving at the horse's feet. Like, Naughty Dog does so many things with the visuals in its game that other developers are just like, we don't have time for that. But Naughty Dog takes the time to do it, which is why their games look so stunning, and they're always the best looking on pretty much every platform they release games on.
Yeah,
so,
I think it'll be probably a noticeable update.
Yeah, horse's hair will look better, like stuff like that.
Very little things. Yeah, but like, you get real ripples in the water versus canned animation or whatever.
Tyke is asking, did they mention specifically remaster or PS5 version? Remaster.
They said Last of Us Part 2 remastered.
Yeah. That was what was actually in his resume.
What he actually wrote in the CB.
You would think these workers would figure out like that you don't do stuff like this?
I don't think. I mean, I think if you work on something that long, maybe you're not paying a huge attention to the game market. You may not know it's not announced yet.
Yeah. Or you're just like, look, man, I worked on The Last of Us Part 2. I'm putting that in my resume. Because it is tough for these game developers. It's like, I worked on this huge project that will get me other better jobs, but I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Well, it could also get you jobs outside of the game space because people know that title.
The technology and everything. Yeah.
But again, it makes sense to do this in the sense of, Last of Us is the breakout video game property of the decade so far. Yeah. So... when
my 67-year-old aunt was talking to me about it, that's when I knew.
You have to do this because you have to do something like this because this is your opportunity to get people into the PlayStation ecosystem that might otherwise have never, ever touched it.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. My aunt loved the show.
And if you can get somebody into video games through the fucking Last of Us, they'll play anything after that.
It's true.
Like, you've already played one of the big dogs. Like, there's nothing that should intimidate you after that.
Well, if they're able to handle the show, they can handle the game.
Yeah.
Although I would argue maybe this game's a little more intense than the show.
I don't mean intensity because I don't think they are. I mean handling the controls.
Oh, actually playing the video game. Got you. Yeah, subject matter. The game is probably rougher than the show. Part 2 is.
I mean, it's certainly more relentless about it. I mean, you're killing hundreds of people instead of like a dozen.
And just the stuff that happens to the protagonists and all that stuff, too. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. You're right, because now all these mainstream people are on this franchise. It'll be interesting to see. Also, I'm guessing Naughty Dog is like, we can't get Part 3 out soon enough. Like, we need to strike while this iron is hot, and maybe that's why we're getting this game remastered.
Well, you got to put something out there to capitalize on the synergy.
Look at that shot right there, though. Look at the window reflecting in the water on the floor. Like, it's just, it's crazy. Like, I really can't wait to see what they do to make this game look better. It's also crazy how good this game looks and how old it is at this point. They're still lapping most of the competition.
It's still a PS4
amazing. Game. Yeah. J. Reed Vic 7 says it's probably It probably also says PlayStation likely doesn't have a lot of other stuff coming soon, which is the other reason to re-release this. That's a good point. We were talking about it in last week's show. I'm like, where the hell are all the first-party exclusives for PlayStation 5? There just aren't that many. So if you can get like a remaster of this that looks even better on PS5 Pro or even just on the base PS5, I mean, obviously it's going to make a ton of money, and I don't think people are going to really rake you over the coals for it. So I think we probably come to the conclusion that this is A-okay. Like, I've already played it. That's cool. I'm not going to be pissed off that other people got to buy it for the same price and it looks better. Totally cool with it. And I think most people would be. So, yeah, I really struggle to see anything wrong with what they're doing here. It's a business and they need to make money. So.
Like, if the show hadn't happened, I would be a little more questionable.
Yeah, I'm like cock an eyebrow then.
But, like, you have to have some kind of synergy with this thing's breakout hit status. And the thing that makes the most sense is to put out a new version of the best game.
I think the multiplayer...
Because you can't get 3 done in time.
Yeah.
And 3 is going to be too much of a jump because you're not going to know... Like, I think the adaptation of what happens in 2 is going to take more than one season.
Yeah.
It's in part also because they said, Druckmann doesn't want to do the events of season 3 in the show before he does the game.
Right.
So you got to stall for about 3 years.
Well, I think the multiplayer game was supposed to be the thing that they capitalized on.
Yeah, probably.
It just didn't work out, unfortunately.
I think this is better. I think someone who's into the show is going to be more interested in this than Factions.
I'm more interested in this than the multiplayer game. Way more. I would play this again before I played multiplayer Last of Us. Guaranteed. If you put those two in front of me and said, pick one, Shane, I'd pick The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Every time. Without a doubt. So... it's hard to complain when one of the greatest games ever made is being made better. Yeah. And I mean, that's really what we're talking about here. It's like one of the greatest games ever is going to be even better, and hopefully we get it in like a year's time. That's what the word is on the street. It's coming next year sometime.
Yeah, 2024 was the only thing that was vaguely exist. But again, it does line up with the rumors about the Pro, so that would be my guess.
My guess also is that it will also come to PC day and date, right? Or do you think that they'll hold it as a console exclusive?
Oh, I think they'll hold that.
Will they?
Well, because I think
it's a good question.
I mean, they don't have. It would be about the right time to put it on PC. Maybe
it'll be interesting to see how they handle it.
Hopefully, it's in better shape than the first one was.
Right. Yep.
I mean, they did fix that, but that was not a great launch.
Yep, that's true. So anyway, there you go. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, probably coming in 2024.
Where's my PC version of Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah, seriously. I mean,
I would definitely like to see that all blown up on the 4090.
Yeah, but again, it's like the track record for PlayStation exclusives coming to PC has been so spotty. Like maybe they're just taking their time to make sure that they get it right.
Yeah, or maybe they're just only doing mega hits, which
I mean, what did it end up selling? Like, it's almost 10 million, I thought.
Yeah, but like maybe that's not I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, Days Gone made it over there. It's got to be
right.
Anything can make it over there.
Seriously. So anyway, big news for PlayStation fans, and they could use it right now because there aren't a lot of big first-party things coming down the pipeline that we know about right now, unless you're really into games as a service, which, where's Fair Games? Like, where are all those games that they showed? Where is it? Like,
what?
Fair Games, like Jade Raymond's new game. Like, they showed it, and then they just had that big state of play that it wasn't there. Like, I don't know.
I think they're probably just waiting for next, maybe... There does seem to be a thing of it's like, just get this year done first.
Yeah. So. Maybe the Game Awards, they show a gameplay trailer for that finally. We see the in-engine stuff for it.
Oh, for Jade's thing?
Yeah, for Fair Games, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I keep forgetting.
But again, it's like a 4-player cooperative heist shooter. Do you want more of that?
Yeah, that doesn't... There's a reason I didn't think of that, I think.
People weren't exactly salivating for our review of Payday 3 a couple weeks ago.
I definitely feel like there's going to be a period where we have to really grind through all the games as a service crap that Sony commissioned to get back to the actual things we like from Sony's first party.
Seems like it. Because they're going to have to fall on their face.
I mean, at least Factions is already basically pre-killed.
Yeah, that's true.
Imagine having to sit through that and waiting for Naughty Dog to reallocate resources over to something else from that. Thank God Insomniac and Sucker Punch know better.
Yeah, yep. Another hardware-related topic for housekeeping today. We learned this week that Alan Wake 2 on Xbox Series S will only run at 30 frames per second. Does that seem like a big deal to you, Matt? People have been kind of freaking out about it, but I honestly...
not if you have any concept of what the S's hardware is.
Yeah.
This is the compromise you make for getting the lower price system.
Yeah.
There you go. Like, if you keep expecting these things to run the same, you're crazy.
I would argue, too, that, like, do I need Alan Wake 2 to run at 60 frames? Not really.
I mean, it's always nice.
It's nice,
but I'm sure
yeah.
it is playable at 30.
Yeah.
Anything's playable at 30.
Survival horror games at 30 frames per second, I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
like, I
but
played
I
Resident Evil 4 Remake with the quality version instead of the frame rate.
Yeah, but I switched over to Starfield at 30 when I switched from Xbox and PC and back, and it was it's fine.
It's fine, yeah.
At first, I'm like, oh my god, what the fuck? It's a
I feel like people
slideshow.
make a
But
bigger
like
deal
5
of
minutes
that.
later, I'm fine. It's like, fine, as long as it's steady.
Locked. As long as
Yeah.
it's locked at 30, I'm totally cool with
I
it.
don't know if this will be locked at 30, but like 30 on its own is not the end of the world.
Yeah, me
Of course
either.
not.
I feel like this is something that's really overblown with video games.
Well, it's
in the modern
an
age.
easy metric to sort of console war around.
Yeah,
you know, like,
you're right.
oh, it runs this on
This, but
PlayStation, but
that.
this runs this on Xbox.
Yeah.
You know, that's where I usually see it used.
Yeah, you're probably right. Now, I will say this. A game we're going to talk about in a little bit, which is Call of Duty multiplayer. 60 frames per second does make a difference there.
Yeah.
I would prefer to have the snappier turning and things like that for a competitive shooter. If I'm just playing single-player stuff with the
As long as the
story-driven
inputs
campaign,
also run at 60 frames a second.
yeah, exactly, yeah. Because that is...
Because then you run into the frame pacing problem, which is plagued for many, many games.
Yep. Oh,
Which is
Swanland,
very
thank you for
weird.
Twitch Prime. I see you slid in there. Surf Spider ass says an upgrade path for current owners would be appreciated, but Sony won't based on part 1. I don't know how you would do that. Like send in your old one and they give you the new one for $100.
I think you just pay. I think you'd pay like half price for a digital upgrade would be the way I would go with that. But Sony doesn't seem to be interested in that.
Yeah. But again, I think this is one of those stories with Alan Wake 2 at 30 frames per second that people freak out about, but it doesn't matter to me.
They did kind of do that with Tsushima though. With the expansion for Tsushima did give you like the next gen update if you bought it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So there is precedent. I don't know. Like we'll see.
I'd be surprised.
Yeah,
though.
it would surprise me.
Because also I think the gap in between the two versions.
Yeah, but also like, look, I love Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima is no The Last of Us.
No.
The Last of Us does not need to give you anything for free.
Yeah.
People will buy it. People will come, Ray.
Oh yeah,
they will buy it.
Yep. Are you excited for Alan Wake 2, Matt?
No,
It's coming out here not too long from now.
No, we've been over this. I have zero interest in this game, really. Like I just don't care about it. I can't even really explain why. Nothing I've seen about it looks interesting in the slightest. And I love Control. Like I like Remedy's stuff for the most part. I'll play it because we're going to talk about it, but it's just like it just looks like every other horror game in existence at this point. And I've already played too many this year, and I only liked one of them. And it was the remake of the 20-year-old one.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know.
It's going to be tough to beat the Resident Evil 4 remake.
Yeah.
Like, it just is. I hope this is one of those games that I'm pleasantly surprised by. Like a game that I played for today's show, actually. I was pleasantly surprised by. So hopefully this is another one.
It just looking at this just makes me tired. It's like, okay.
It looks a lot like Silent Hill to me, honestly.
It does. A little bit, yeah. But like as someone who gave up on Silent Hill many years ago, I mean, don't even talk to me about the fucking Silent Hill 2 remake at this point. Like whenever that's coming out. Yep. I do love that Sam Lake is still in it. Like there's like the guy with Sam Lake's face. It's like, oh, is that old like previous Max Payne from another dimension is here?
He'll put himself in everything.
Oh yeah.
And for whatever reason, the fans seem to like it. So whatever.
All I know is that every time he shows up at the Game Awards or something and starts talking, I'm like, the fact that he doesn't sound like Max Payne throws me completely off.
Yeah.
Like he starts talking, he's got like the Scandinavian accent. I was like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
you're supposed to be depressed and angry and gruff.
After all the data, Scorpius Finest is asking, is Alan Wake 2 coming to Game Pass?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Not that I remember. Because don't forget, it's not an Xbox exclusive anymore, like the first one was. It's now multi-platform. So I don't think it is. I don't remember seeing anything about it. Maybe someone in chat can clarify, which is why our chat is flipping awesome. Maybe we need to talk more about Series S, Matt. Now that we have the data that like 75% of Xbox owners have the Series S.
What is Red Fox 1980? Why does Matt give Microsoft a pass for this? It was sold as a next-gen console after 3 years. It's garbage. Not everybody's as informed or has the cash to buy a Series X. It's literally impossible for old. It's barely next-gen hardware. It's absolutely the time to not give Microsoft a pass for this was when they decided to sell it.
It's like
because
the Xbox
that's what
One
it is.
X2, basically.
Yeah, what are you going to do with it? Like
it represents 75% of the market.
It's 3 years into the next generation, and games are doing things that you cannot run on hardware that week. So
I almost feel like
you're lucky it's still on there. Frankly, like Microsoft would be the Microsoft I know from back in the day would be more likely to just be like, well, we're just not going to put these things on the system anymore.
Yeah,
at least it's still there.
I almost feel like for the purposes of informing you guys and girls, that I made a mistake buying the Series X. That I should have bought Series S, because that is the experience that most people are getting when they're playing Xbox games now. Like,
I don't think anybody could have predicted that.
Yeah, we couldn't have. But in hindsight, it turns out, like, I probably should have got the Series S. And I will say this, when that console was coming out, I was shocked how many people on Sifted were saying they were getting the Series S. And that should have pinged something in my brain that, like, hey, if our audience is getting the Series S instead of the Series X, that probably means that a lot of other people are doing it too.
Yeah, and it's not like, 30 frames a second is fine.
Yeah, it is.
It's fine.
Yeah, I agree.
Who cares?
Yeah, I don't care either.
If 60 FPS is that important to you, spend the extra $100.
Seriously, yeah. And then
That's barely $1 a frame.
Well, then you could put your money where your mouth is. Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you're really that bummed out about 60 frames or whatever, then spend the extra cash and get the one that can do it. So,
assuming the Series X even plays it steadily,
yeah,
at 60, we'll see.
We'll be talking about Alan Wake 2 here in the next couple weeks on GameFace, but we're going to be talking about it within the context of Series X and not S. That's just the way it is. Unfortunately.
Or PC. I may get it on PC. Although it's on Epic. It's Epic Game Store, so I usually don't like to do that as much, but I don't know why. I mean, I'm less...
Because you have a huge library on Steam.
Right. I'm also less inclined to give Tim Sweeney a buck these days.
After he laid off 1,000 people from a company where they're making money hand over fist. Yeah, I hear you on that one. So anyway, there you go. Alan Wake 2 coming out pretty soon here. In a couple weeks, we'll be talking about it on a future episode of GameFace. Don't have much longer to wait. Next up, I didn't even realize this, Matt, but it is the 20th anniversary of Call of Duty. When I heard that, at first I was like, it's been 20 years? And then I was like, it's been 20 years. Because I've played all of these games, one after another every year. Not just played them, but played them extensively. So it's pretty amazing that this franchise is this big and it's only been around for 20 years. Most franchises that sell like this one have been around since the old school days.
Although, if you're really being honest about it, Call of Duty started in 2007.
Yeah.
Call of Duty Modern Warfare is what starts. Is the starting pistol, really. But yeah, the original, which most people have never played, was PC only and was used health packs.
Yeah. Yep.
And I remember going to the launch event for that and seeing Vince and all those guys because they were so excited they weren't working for EA anymore. And oh boy, if you could have just told them the future.
Full circle.
Yep.
And there was Call of Duty 2. We went to that event in the Presidio for that.
I didn't go to that.
I thought you did go with me.
No, my Call of Duty 2 experience was I was sent to Infinity Ward to review it for the Xbox 360 launch thing we were doing, the big
blowout we did. Yeah.
And I remember being completely bummed about it because no one wanted to do it, and they ended up sending me because I'm like, oh god, another World War II shooter. And I sat down and was blown away by it because I had no idea of with the level they were working on at this point. And we sat down for lunch, and they're all like, so what did you think about it? And I'm just like, what the fuck, man? I was shell shocked a little bit. I was like, I don't know what to say at this point. And I always say that's always the contrast I think of with Infinity Ward was that lunch for Call of Duty 2 where they're all like, so do you like it? Is it what do you think? Is it good? And then when I came back for Modern Warfare 2 years later, we sat down to lunch and Vince looks at me and goes, it's pretty fucking great, isn't it?
They didn't have to ask you the question.
They knew what they had after that. Yeah.
Well, because it is the 20th anniversary, Activision has been doing some stuff. They've been putting out some videos. They put out a celebration video, blah, blah, blah.
How about a remaster of the original game?
Yeah.
For console. It's never been on consoles.
Well, unfortunately, in the midst of all this, the reason we're really talking about this, it's not to celebrate Call of Duty. The reason we're talking about this is because Bobby Kotick basically came out and said, Call of Duty for the foreseeable future is going to be near future. We are not going back to World War II. Mm-hmm. We are not going into the future again. It is going to stay with basically what you've had for the last, I don't know, how many years now has it been since Infinite Warfare?
Oh.
8, 9 years?
Something like that.
Yeah. Not quite.
Not like that. It was
7 or 6 years ago.
6 or 7, yeah.
So what we've been dealing with since then is pretty much what we're going to get. We're not going back to World War I. We're not going to World War II. We're not going into the future for a futuristic game.
I mean, the last time we went back to World War II wasn't amazing anyway.
This is what we're seeing right now, Call of Duty World War II.
I was shocked by how much I didn't like this.
I didn't like it either, really. And look, I don't really want to go back to World War II. Don't get me wrong. There's been too many shooters set in World War II already.
And honestly, every time any of these shooters try to go back to historical wars now, it just doesn't feel like it works.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm more concerned about the fact that they're not going to do any forward-looking games. That's what I like.
I mean, this is what, Infinite Warfare is probably my favorite thing since Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah.
But, like, this is what has worked for them.
It has.
Like,
I mean,
that near future setting is what the main audience seems to want.
that's where they make most of their sales. Last year's game was the best-selling Call of Duty ever. And once that happens, trying to get them off of that is going to be really hard. So
Yeah.
I understand why.
I mean, Microsoft management could always make a different call later, but like
Yeah.
for now, I feel like you're gonna be playing with drones for a while.
I understand why the decision was made. I just don't like it. Is what I'm getting at.
I will say this: I hope they keep up with modern tech.
They will.
Like, there's cutting edge military tech is going to change pretty rapidly to the point that some of this stuff is going to feel like far future.
Right. Yeah.
And like, I hope they are not averse to like putting in like
Prototype stuff.
primitive power armor. Primitive power skeleton armor, which is coming up, or optic camo, which is being worked. Like some stuff that feels like Metal Gear Solid is going to turn out to be actual battlefield stuff in the next 5 to 10 years. So you are kind of going to get future stuff as we move forward.
The other thing too is that the future is never what we think it's going to be.
No,
like we think about robots. If you go back to like when we were kids watching the Jetsons or just watching sci-fi from back then, what we thought the future was going to be like and what it is, it's like we thought robots were going to be like these sentient things that interacted with us and walked around with us. As it turns out, the first robots are these little cubes on wheels that deliver food called Coco. Which is really awesome, by the way. Like in LA, if you drive by at night, you see these little robots going down the sidewalks. They're these little squares with wheels and big bright lights on them that say Coco on the side, and they just deliver
and
food.
faces.
They have faces, yeah.
They have like little like lights for eyes, and they blink and look around. And
yeah, my wife sees one. She goes, "Oh, Coco!" Like she has like an attachment to the Coco delivery robots.
It's very smart, very smart.
But my point is like, who would have dreamed that the first robots that we really interacted with on a daily basis would just be these very simple machines with wheels that just brought you your dinner? Like
me, but like
most people don't.
Well, I was very interested in that stuff, and like, if you're a big fan of mechs and robot stuff, even back then, one of the first things you learn getting into it is like they're not going to be bipedal.
Yeah, because it's so hard to
terrible.
Make them walk.
Like it's a terrible method of locomotion.
Yeah.
We aren't even good at it. We fall over all the time. Our spines suck. Our knees suck. Like it's a terrible way to get around. You're looking at even Rosie the robot in the maid in Jetsons has wheels.
She does. Yeah, no legs. Yeah.
So yeah, you're going to see tread. Even the best build in Armored Core forever treads. The tank tread version. So little robots specialized for tasks that slowly become more despecialized is kind of where we're going with it.
Yep.
Which we learned from automation from the factories even back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is really smart to have the cute little Coco thing. Like you get people attached to them, and it'll be much less threatening when Coco 2 takes their job.
I actually saw someone trying to break into one like a week ago. It had rolled by them, and like it was a little homeless encampment, and they were there trying to like pop the wheels off of it with like that is some
fucking Verhoeven shit. Like that. Like I am shocked that those things aren't destroyed more often.
Yeah. Because most people are just like, even if you get it open, like I'm probably going to destroy whatever's inside it. Like,
right. Or like the thing with like, what was the little, like, it wasn't a real robot, but it was like a automaton sort of thing, and they were having it hitchhike across the country, and as soon as they got to Philadelphia, they just destroyed it. Yeah,
that was funny.
Like,
Not surprising either.
No, I was like, welcome to the city of brotherly love.
If any of you guys watched Ask Shane Anything, the last episode where I talk about my experiences in Philadelphia, you know exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah. I always think about Henry Rollins making fun of the United, like the friendly skies thing. He's like, sky's not friendly, sky's up there, but it's nice. It's a nice idea that United has its own set of sky. It's like, we only fly in the friendly parts. That's why we will not go to Philadelphia International Airport.
Digital Reflux says, I've seen an old lady riding one. That would be hilarious.
I mean, hey, beats walking.
Hey, Mike's Q, thank you for Twitch Prime, man. I haven't talked to you for a while. I hope you're doing good, man. So anyway, Call of Duty's 20th anniversary actually was depressing for me because I've now discovered that we're going to be playing the same Call of Duty for like the next 10 years. So Hopefully they have a change of heart, but I would be surprised if they did.
I left Call of Duty pretty much behind with that World War II one because it was so. I'm like, okay, clearly, like, because
I remember you played it.
Yeah, because I was clearly like, okay, like this is kind of the area I liked, and I'll try it again. I'm like, I just walk away from it.
Well, that was the one where they didn't have the real campaign either. They had those weird like story-based missions. Like it wasn't actually a campaign that like you would play from start to end. That was like chapters that you would play.
It was just basically moments in the war,
right.
and, which was a lot more battlefieldy,
right.
really.
Yep.
But it doesn't. It doesn't matter. I mean, I am curious about sort of the new modern warfares and sort of the retelling of not the same story, but the same characters through a different kind of
lens,
conflict. I'm interested in that, but they're so expensive. Like all I want to do is play the campaign. I don't want all this extra shit, and it's impossible to get them on sale for any decent price.
Yeah.
So I guess in like 10 years I'll play those maybe.
Yeah. Moving on, we're going to update on a story that we had in housekeeping last week. We're not going to talk about it very long. I just want to clarify what happened in case some of you guys were freaking out. We talked about last week that Sony was hacked and that these hackers were holding information ransom. We wondered exactly what kind of information that they had, if it was customers' number, like credit card numbers and addresses and stuff. As it turns out, it was not. All the information that the hackers got was of PlayStation employees. Which for them, that really sucks. But for the rest of us, it's like, shoo.
Yeah.
So do you think we're going to see PlayStation Japan bowing over this one like they did over the PSN stuff?
I mean, not to us.
Yeah.
Maybe to the internal employees.
Right. Yeah. 'Cause that's a pretty bad gaffe if you're an employee there, having your personal information leaked by your company that you work for. But we're not going to talk about it very long. I just wanted to mention that if you were worried about your personal information being leaked or some hacker having it and putting it out on the internet or whatever, you can stop worrying. It's only employees from PlayStation that had their information compromised. Next up, we got information now that Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, and 2.0 are out there, and they've turned the page on Cyberpunk 2077. They've already given us an update on the sequel to Cyberpunk 2077. Right now is tentatively called Orion. Cyberpunk 2077 Orion. I kind of thought or think that maybe it'll just end up being called like Cyberpunk 2099 or something like that. We'll see. But they've already started working on that. And the good news is the team that worked on this 2.0 and Phantom Liberty is the team that is driving development on the sequel Orion. So I think that's encouraging news. The other encouraging news...
They know what not to do.
Right. The other encouraging news is that they're completely scrapping the engine that they built the first game on. They're building a brand new engine for all their games going forward. So for the next Witcher game, for the next Cyberpunk game, all on brand new engines. So hopefully that'll cut down on some of the bugs that people dealt with the launch of Cyberpunk 2077.
Now that they know what they want these things to do, they can customize they can customize the tools from the ground up to do that.
To do exactly what they want. Yeah. So
you could tell they were struggling. Just obviously, pretty much any engine can do anything you want if you build the right tools for it. But like even in Cyberpunk, it was clear that red engine was no one ever expected to be moving faster than a horse in that engine. And when you're driving around through the Badlands, sometimes it was just like like just couldn't keep, and the denoising couldn't keep up on the PC.
Erebus Jones brings up a good point. You'll be able to enjoy the campaigns in quotations for free when they hit Game Pass soon.
True.
Yeah, so you'll be able to play them all.
That would be the way to go.
And they're saying, by the way, that Modern Warfare 3 will not be on Game Pass this year. That it'll be on Game Pass next year. So I don't know if they're going to continue with that, where it's like a year's delay where they put it on Game Pass. I don't know how that's going to work.
That's fine. I can wait.
Yeah. I didn't think you're like itching to play it or whatever, but it's not going to be day and date on Game Pass this year's Call of Duty. They haven't said anything about next year's. We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
I mean, considering all the trouble they had over PlayStation and stuff, it feels like that's a pretty decent compromise.
Yep, I'd agree. But then the other big news coming out of CD Projekt Red is that Cyberpunk 2077 is drastically outpacing the sales of The Witcher 3.
That's interesting.
Yeah, by a lot. Like it took The Witcher 3 2 more years to get to the sales number that Cyberpunk 2077 is at right now. 2 years. Are you surprised by that, Matt?
A little bit, but also like as someone who I know was asking about whether they should get it with Phantom Liberty now, because I'd warned them that it was not all that amazing when it launched.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, you could. I mean, I was like, yeah, I really like it now. They fixed a lot of it. Phantom Liberty's great. Like, it's the right time to get it. And he noted that he's like, good, because like honestly, I was looking around for something else to play instead of it, and there isn't really anything else like it.
No, there really isn't.
And he's right. Like if you want another hack and slash fantasy game, there's a lot
50,
out there.
yeah.
But there isn't really a lot of high end, AAA budget cyberpunk stuff.
Nope.
So yeah, like
even
part
sci-fi
of it,
action RPGs aren't as common.
Part of it is just the singular nature of it is like it doesn't have a lot of competition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was shocked to see that. I don't know if that means that I should be impressed with Cyberpunk or disappointed that more people didn't buy The Witcher 3. It's kind of both, I guess.
I mean, Witcher 3 sold very well.
It did, yeah. I mean, it sold, tens, probably 20-some million. But, for this game to outsell it drastically, I was pretty surprised by it.
I wouldn't have expected that ahead of Cyberpunk. I would have always thought was more of a niche, especially because Witcher had a TV show back in it. But I turned out that Edge Runners cartoon really boosted engagement with the game, like in a way that shocks me, both because you wouldn't think that people would necessarily make the connection, and also because Edge Runners sucked.
Right,
like that show.
Yeah, I got
terrible.
I only got to an episode and a half.
It was bad.
Yeah, I've discovered there's a lot of people out there who are willing to watch really bad animated shit.
Oh, you don't need the aided there. It's just anime. Really bad anime.
Yeah, that was one thing I discovered when I hung out with my nephew who's 11. Like, the anime that he was watching was so awful. I'm just like, what are you doing? You're rotting your brain watching.
It's all pretty
crap.
bad. I mean, some of it's just like, I guess I'm too old for that. I know people who literally think One Piece is one of the greatest works of literature in the history of humanity. And I have tried to watch some of that. And it is not.
I've been watching the Netflix show. Have you watched it at all?
No,
I'm on like episode 3.
I am 47 years old and I don't care about shonen shit.
Well, it's kind of like Pirates of the Caribbean is what it kind of reminds me of.
Yeah,
it's that same tone.
I think if I was like a teenager, I'd be super into it, but I'm not. So I'm not.
Yeah. I've never really liked One Piece at all before, so I did start watching it. Like, I'm on episode 3. I haven't started flagging yet, so we'll see if it can keep it up.
Well, you got about 1,800 more to go. All those people all those actors are gonna die before they can shoot all that whole story. There's no way.
You're probably right. So anyway, honestly, it's all good news coming out of CD Projekt Red now. Like, now that it got past the rough launch, like everything I'm hearing from them is what I want to hear from them.
Who'd have thunk?
Yeah, I mean, they cleaned it up. You got to give it. Here's the thing: it's like, as a critic, you need to criticize when people do things wrong. You also need to reward people when they fix things and they get them headed in the right direction. That's what we're doing here. We criticized the game when it came out because it was honestly broken. They fixed it. They've made an expansion that's amazing. 2.0 is amazing. And now we need to praise them. We need to recognize the work that they've done. And the success
they made it right. Sometimes it's not worth it. Yeah. Sometimes...
It was this time.
Because you had the interest and the talent and the backing to make it happen. But sometimes it's Redfall, and you should probably just stop.
Yeah, because they've been working on Redfall.
Oh yeah, they put that patch out, which was really cool. But there were 2 people playing it on Steam when that patch went live.
I know.
2 people.
They can't get enough people to get a match.
No.
I mean, it's time to just throw in the towel.
I mean, to be fair, some of the patch did make solo play more viable.
Right. Which is maybe what they should be doing.
Which seems to be very, very important at this point. But,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then our final piece of housekeeping for today's episode is an update on EA Sports FC. So the initial sales of that did not look good, Matt. They had... it was only physical in the UK, and sales were down drastically compared to last year's FIFA game, but now it is completely rebounded and then some. EA Sports FC new players for this year are up 20%, and right now there are already 11 million people playing EA Sports FC. So it has worked out. The gamble that they took, leaving FIFA behind, it has paid off and then some.
I guess it's FIFA's move then.
20% new players.
And look at all that extra money they get to keep.
Right.
Without having to pay it to FIFA.
Right. So it all worked out.
And now FIFA gets nothing. Yeah. How'd that work out for you?
I wish I could have seen, because the head of FIFA is a douche. Like,
Yeah.
I wish I could have seen his face whenever he got this news.
Yeah, well, because I'm sure he thought that without FIFA it was going to tank.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's why he was hardballing the negotiations.
And it turns out, no.
No, as long as it's a decent soccer game. And I don't even know if I could say that this is a decent soccer game.
Also, I think it's more important that you have the players.
Right. Yeah, the players matter more than the teams. Anything else.
The players and the clubs are what people have the loyalty to. Nobody likes FIFA.
Nobody cares about FIFA. FIFA is like a necessary evil for the World Cup. Like, that's pretty much what FIFA is at this point.
That is certainly what people I know who care about soccer have said to me.
Yeah, yeah. I can't tell you whether it's good or not, but reviews haven't been great. Like, it's basically, they're just like, it's the same game as last year without the FIFA name. Maybe for some people that's good enough because people maybe thought it was going to fall off, but I don't know why you would think that. They're going to develop the game the same as always. So, but financially, it has worked out great for Electronic Arts. So all our folks in Europe, you guys are all buying it. What'd you say?
Something had to.
Yeah.
Apparently, because they split them into EA Sports and EA Entertainment.
Yep.
Apparently, internally, they call them the side that makes money and the side that doesn't.
Because EA Entertainment. Well, here's the thing, though. I think they rolled all their mobile stuff into the entertainment division to help buoy that side of it. Because you're right. Otherwise, all the money from Madden, all the money from FIFA, all the money from Ultimate Team, and their mobile games. Yeah. That's what's keeping EA afloat.
Well, now we're hitting a point. Now you've got the 7 employees suing BioWare and EA by proxy. And more and more, as more stuff comes out on that, I'm like, I don't know if I want to give you money for Dreadwolf.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like they've been really shady about
Where the hell is it? That game's also been in development for forever.
Mm-hmm.
And we still haven't really seen any real gameplay footage of it.
No, we haven't.
We got that leak of the beta stuff that looked like an N64 game, but that's not fair to judge. So I don't know what's going on with that game. I'm starting to get a little nervous about it.
You should be very nervous about it. I mean, also, if that game doesn't sell, that's the end of BioWare.
It will be. Yeah.
That's it.
And I do wonder if that messaging gets out there, if fans will rally.
I don't know. Well, Dragon Age, apparently they were going to shut BioWare down. They were ready to shut them down, and then Dragon Age Inquisition sold better than anything they'd ever made before in one game of the year, and they're like, well, I guess we can't do that now. Mm-hmm. But I guarantee you, if Dreadwolf doesn't do gangbusters, they're not going to let Mass Effect. I like Mass Effect way more than Dragon Age, but Mass Effect doesn't sell DragonAge numbers. No. And if Dragon Age Dreadwolf doesn't sell, I guarantee you they're not going to think Mass Effect's going to move the needle, and that's going to be the end of it.
Yeah,
so
true.
That's the it's one's for all the marbles in a number of different ways, and we'll see what even happens with the lawsuit and all. I mean, what a mess!
Yeah,
what an absolute mess!
Yeah. How could you bobbled that so badly?
EA is. I don't understand how you managed that poorly. It's just astounding.
It really is. It's crazy.
And meanwhile, you've got like Respawn being successful, almost in spite, because
it does things opposite of how the mothership does them.
Because Respawn has that element of like, we're just gonna make what
awesome
we want to
do,
and then we're gonna you can sit there. Yeah, and like we're gonna make Apex Legends
let us handle
without any permission.
Yeah,
we're gonna make this Jedi game,
and we'll make you rich. By the way, that's also where a lot of money is coming from.
No, we're not going to use your shitty Frostbite engine. We're going to use Unreal because that's what we know. So we're going to, and then look,
funny how that happened.
Now we're doing a third one.
Yeah,
because it's just the only thing making any fucking cash flow at this point.
Yep.
And it still won't let them fix the PC version properly.
Right. Yeah.
Just astounding. Just what are you doing? And it's amazing to me that you remember a few years ago, EA was continually voted the shittiest company, that Golden Turd Award or that thing. No, not to work at, just the shittiest company.
Yeah,
like there's that that kind of tongue-in-cheek.
And Insomniac would always win, and then EA would always.
But there was that tongue-in-cheek competition of I don't remember what they called it, but it was like
Oh, I do remember that.
You remember that? And basically
it's like the Razzies for companies.
But basically people very online people stuff the ballots for EA because they hated them more than the other companies. Nowadays, I don't know if you'd even have that much vitriol left.
No, people just don't care anymore.
They're not an element that matters anymore.
Yep, it's true. So anyway, there you go. EA Sports FC doing great for EA, and basically at this point, EA can tell FIFA to just F off. That's going to do it for our housekeeping. We're about ready to launch into GameFace 361 proper, but before that, here's a word from our sponsor, LS Cream. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass.
and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. Ellis Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted.
So, AJ the Legend Watson, if we do get together and tailgate for the Steelers-Rams game, you know what we're going to have at the tailgate? We're going to have LS Cream. We have to make drinks with LS Cream. And we have to take pictures and videos of it, and we'll have to share it here.
It's hard to imagine drinking LS Cream in a parking lot.
Well, no, you mix it with the other drinks or whatever. You just bring the LS Cream, you bring one other stronger liquor in one mixer, and off you go. And we can turn a bunch of people, a bunch of Rams fans, and maybe some Steelers fans, onto LS Cream. Let's make it a plan. Maybe I can get LS Cream to buy me my Steelers ticket so that we can go and have a big LS Cream party in the parking lot of SoFi Stadium. I'm just kidding, Steve, obviously. But anyway, big thanks to LS Cream for sponsoring GameFace. We really, really appreciate it. Go to creamls.com/sifted. That's SIFTD. As I say every week, it's like the best website for a liquor ever. It has awesome drink recipes, places where you can get it. You can buy it online, you can buy it locally, all that kind of stuff. It's awesome. I did get a message from somebody over the last week. They sent me a photo. They just bought LS Cream while they were watching GameFace last week. They went and bought a bottle while they were watching. Feel free to do it as well. Again, go to creamls.com/sifted. And with that...
Why is everybody talking about Disney buying EA?
Because that's a rumor that
popped up today.
Yes. That's a story that broke when I was on the way here, is that now Disney is saying that it is open to buying EA, or people are suggesting Disney should buy EA. Dude, crap or get off the pot, dude, with Disney. It's like, figure it out. They go into games, and then they bail. They go into games, and then they bail. It's just,
like, that would just be like, okay, so you don't EA until you got bored of it again.
And you just sell it again? Like,
that would be like, what, the fourth time they've gone, no, we're into interactive entertainment. Oh, we're out again.
Yeah.
It just happens all the time.
It's so dumb. And let's be honest, Disney should be in interactive entertainment.
It is very weird.
It should be in the industry.
It's very weird that Disney games have been so sporadic all the time. And
it can't figure it out.
And that they go in and they back out. Like, how nuts is it that Disney Infinity got shut down the way it did when it was doing as well? I mean, look, the Toys to Life stuff obviously, ran its course.
Yeah.
It's funny to me that no one seemed to notice that, like, Toys to Life thing was very popular with kids.
Yeah.
And those kids were into it for 4 years until they hit high school.
Yeah.
And that was it.
But now there's a whole group of other kids that might like it.
But there wasn't.
Right.
They weren't? They didn't.
Really?
It didn't transfer.
I wonder why.
That happens with brands all the time, though.
Yeah.
That's a fad. The fads go that way. No one liked Garbage Pail Kids after our generation. Like,
I didn't like Garbage Pail Kids either, to be fair.
What I'm saying is, like, they forgot or they didn't realize or whatever. Toy companies know this. If you're at Mattel or Hasbro, you know this. But, like, you got about 4 to 5 years.
You got to strike while the iron's hot.
Because the kids, the next wave of kids are not going to think of those things as cool. That's their older siblings.
Right. That's true. That's a good point, actually. That's a big part of it, I think. Yeah.
People forget. Like, Transformers lasted 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Like the IDW,
where they were on TV all the time and people were buying them all the time.
That was only 3 years. They were on TV for 3 years.
Yeah.
Like the IDW
I mean,
comics,
like ads for like new Transformers, like the toys.
Oh, those lasted longer than the cartoons. Yeah. But like... but then if you go back and look at those those commercials, like there's a point where it hits like 1990 and it just gets so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like everything becomes neon and skateboarders playing with Transformers and shit. And it's like, what is happening now? Like you're bringing Megatron to the fucking skate park now? It's not, no one did that. I promise you, no one did.
Definitely did not.
That's about as realistic as bringing the Switch to the fucking basketball practice in that launch ad.
Yeah.
But
Red Fox 1980 asking, like, where's the Mandalorian game? Like, where is it? Like, it's a no-brainer, but when you get out of the games industry, like, it makes it more difficult.
I believe that morphed into what Outlaws is.
Probably.
I think Outlaws probably started life as a Mandalorian game.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yep.
But the problem with the Mandalorian game is there's no way to fit it into the continuity. Mm-hmm. And no one's going to really want to play a random-lorian.
Yeah.
Randalorian. The Randalorian is not really going to... Also, that sounds like an Ayn Rand devotee Mandalorian. Nobody wants that. Objectivist bounty hunters are a bad scene.
That's the sequel show, The Randalorian.
The Randalorian. Just this Mandalorian obsessed with architecture.
Yeah.
But...
All right. We got to move on. We're running out of time. So anyway... We are ready to move on for the bulk of GameFace 361. We're going to kick things off with undoubtedly the biggest game that released over the last week and actually just came out on Friday, and that is Assassin's Creed Mirage. This game, did Ubisoft even really bill this as a throwback? I feel like everybody else saw it and said that, and then it was attached to it, and then Ubisoft just kind of ran with it.
I mean, they did. They said it was a smaller game that was going to go back to the Assassin's Creed basics where you're actually playing an assassin again.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's accurate. That's right. That is what it is.
I mean, obviously you're not, because the word assassin doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Chronologically, but you are a hidden one, which is the
hidden ones. No, what was the name for the Templars?
The Templars are the Order of the Ancients.
Order of the Ancients, yeah. So this is in 9th century Baghdad.
Yeah.
Is the setting, and Basim, who is in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, this is kind of like his origin story. It starts out.
We need a montage. Yeah.
there is a couple of montages.
There are a couple training montages in this, which is better than forcing me to live through Basim's adolescence and doing training courses. To be sure, go ahead and do the montage. I'm fine with that.
So it starts out, he is just like a street ruffian. He's not even in Baghdad.
He's literally Aladdin.
He's living in like rural Iraq. What is it called back then, though? Iraq? What was it called back then?
It was Persia, basically.
Was it Persia?
It's probably.
I know Iran was Persia, but
Persia's more up and to the side. I don't remember. I mean, it's just it's the river valley. It's the Fertile Crescent. He's in the outskirts of Baghdad, basically. He's in the suburbs. He's in the northwest corner of the map. That's
he's in basically rural Iraq, and he's just like a little street criminal. Basically, he's pickpocketing and doing whatever, and he's taking jobs from this guy. Well, as it turns out, the guy starts working with one of the the hidden ones, and Basim is the one who starts getting the missions. He goes back.
Well, he's super obsessed with the hidden one thing. With the what's her name? What's the I can never remember the actress with the voice.
I don't remember her name either.
She's great. Like I love her, but I can never remember her name.
She definitely has a one-of-a-kind voice.
Oh yeah. Well, although when I had COVID, there was a day when I sounded just like her. I was like, I should record a bunch of lines. I sounded like her doing Unicron. That was what my voice sounded like for about a day. That was actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
But she's doing stuff with him.
Sometimes he says, all I know is Istanbul was Constantinople.
It was, but that is not this.
That's hilarious.
But
they might be Giant song. Do you remember that song? Istanbul, not Constantinople. Have you heard that song?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But they might be Giants. Yeah. I remember I got that from Tiny Toons back then.
Oh.
Yeah, Mesopotamia is the larger area, is true. Okay. But he wants to do Hidden One stuff because he hero worships them, but like
he gets lucky.
What's his name is like, no, you can't. I'm not doing that for you. So he basically decides to go do the mission on his own because he overhears what it is.
What the mission is.
And that turns out to be an error.
Yeah. He goes to find a chest that they're looking for, and it turns out to be like a total disaster that I don't want to spoil anything, but there are huge ramifications for him doing that. He goes and steals something from the palace.
Yeah. And I mean, if you've seen Aladdin, it's basically the same thing except put the Assassin's Creed artifact in instead of the genie lamp.
Pretty much, yeah.
It all goes rather wrong for him because also we know from Valhalla that he is also a descendant of the ancients, the Isu.
I don't know
the first ones.
You pronounce
it. He's because he's Loki.
Right.
In Valhalla, it turns out like you can be reborn, and so Eivor is a reborn version of Odin, and he's a reborn version of Loki, but he doesn't know that in this game.
He knows there's something special about him, though. As with
the other ancient games, the first civilization artifacts react to him,
right.
And that's how you know that you have
something.
Because for those who have not been following the meta story, basically there's the ancient god characters who have been putting themselves into AI or machines, talking to Desmond. But the thing about the ancient trilogy, particularly Valhalla, is that they reveal that the Nordic god, the Asgardians, their method to survive the apocalypse thing that happened was to transfer their consciousness into the genetics of the human race and hope that they would reassert themselves in the future generations. And that does apparently happen periodically, and that is why certain people are larger, stronger, and able to use the first civilization artifacts. And Eivor was one of those. Cassandra was very much one of those. And Basim is also one of them.
Yep. And so he goes out on the mission. He comes back. The mission, would you call it a failure? I don't think he realizes it's a failure until...
He horribly fails to do what he's trying to do, but he does get to be an assassin, so it was
a mission accomplished, I guess, in the end.
Yeah, he pulled it off.
He comes back.
He got what he wanted. The
Right.
mission was not a success,
That's
but he did get what he wanted.
Yeah. So he comes back, and basically the recruiter for the assassins is like, the whole town is after him, and we're not going to say why or what happens, but the whole town is after him, and she basically saves his ass and says, come with me.
After he has a fight with his best friend, who I'm sure will not come back to be relevant later in the story.
Sure.
It's not breaking a lot of new ground narratively.
No.
Let's put it that way.
No, and so she takes him with her, and he goes and he lives with the assassons, and
I do love the early parts here where I actually worry about hiding bodies.
Where I thought I needed to hide bodies.
And later on, you're just like, it's a murderer. Yes, it is. Here we go. The murderer's climbing the building. Go tell them where I am. I could use some more help.
The other thing, too, is that a lot of the B-roll that's in this for the show today is B-roll that I recorded to play the first hour for our patrons. And so you want to make sure that you're showing things off to them because they're seeing it for the first time. So I want to show them, like, you can hide the body. So you do a lot of things when you're streaming a game, quote unquote, that you don't do when you just play it on your own. And some of that will come through in this B-roll, ultimately. But here we're seeing the scene where he meets with her, and then he's already completed the mission. He comes back, and horrible things start happening in his local town. She takes him with him, and that's where you see the montage. So he goes with her to live with the assassins, and he trains to become an assassin, and it's just like Rocky, basically.
Literally grows a beard.
It's just like Rocky.
In real time.
So he lives with them for a while, and he becomes an assassin. And then eventually he starts taking missions for the assassins.
Yeah, and eventually one of his friends, one of the guys he likes at the assassin enclave, is sent to Baghdad to handle some shit. And it all goes wrong, and he comes back injured, and the leader and Basim has just conveniently finished the trials to become a full-fledged assassin.
Perfect timing.
So the leader basically sends him and the lady with the voice and the old guy who gives Basim wise advice to go to Baghdad and take over the operation. And after that, everybody just sort of stays home and lets Basim do everything for them. So that's the game.
Yeah, and that is pretty much the game. That's the plot for the game.
It's like we've been super hard on you for years, but actually you're better at this than everyone else. So you're just going to go do everything now.
Yeah, I struggle to even really say like what his ultimate goal is. Like to discover who he is.
He just wants to be someone of consequence.
Yeah,
that's all. Like he says it at the very beginning. He's like, "You think I'm going to be a street thief my whole life? I want to be something bigger."
Yeah,
and he doesn't really have aspirations beyond just not being a street rat.
Right. But it's like I try to think about what the
it's like he's seen Aladdin or something.
Right. You know? It's like I think about like what's the overarching like goal of it. It's hard to really say what it is.
Yeah, he really just wants to be a good assassin.
Yeah.
And doesn't have a lot of, he doesn't know enough about the situation to have ambitions beyond that. Part of the story is him learning the actual reality. Like as with so many of these protagonists, learning the reality of the world.
Yeah.
Which in this case, all the other people he's working for already know and are slowly letting him in on like the reality of what the Assassins versus Templars thing is. Which is, fine. I am not, I'm 3/5 of the way, judging by how many ancient Order of the Ancients people you're supposed to kill.
Yeah.
I am 3/5 of the way through the game. Mm-hmm. More if you, I've done all the side content. And I filled the entire map in outside of the one lost book you can't get to until like the final mission or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you know how I do that.
Yeah.
He is unbelievably powerful. Like there's nothing. I am literally walking through the story missions with it. I'm like, oh, were you supposed to be a boss? I'm sorry.
A flesh wound. Yeah. There aren't a lot of boss fights in this. They take a long time before they show up.
Yeah. Well, you're just
if
you do the boss fight right, it's like the old Assassin's Creeds. If you do it right, you just jump down, kill them, and then get away. Yeah. It is weird to me that like Valhalla leaned into this too. Because since the first Assassin's Creed, when you assassinate a major target, you have that scene in kind of a limbo where they lay there and you talk to them about things and they tell you don't actually know what you're doing and you have no idea what you've unleashed and all that. Yeah, and then you're like, well, whatever, I'm going to wipe you with a feather and leave anyway. And for some reason, all these years, I used to think that was sort of like a metaphorical thing. Valhalla in this game really lean into the idea that happens in
real.
Like, really happens in their mind. But seems looking at because Eivor like kind of talks to Odin and like it clearly is something that she remembers. In this, he looks around and is like, what the fuck?
Yeah, what's going on?
So that is apparently an actual thing that happens for real. That's not metaphorical. It's not any kind of allegory. When you assassinate an important target as an assassin with ancient blood, I thought that was an animus effect, but apparently not.
Yeah, then you use a feather to wipe their blood.
I don't know if I have not seen a single animus thing in this whole game.
No,
like no modern day stuff. No.
I mean, other than that one scene there where he picks up the amulet or whatever, and it projects like the weird scene, like. That's the only thing even close to that. But I mean,
no one, it has not gone to the modern day, and no one has popped out of an animus and talked, I haven't had to talk to Layla or whoever or whatever. I mean, I think she died or something, but like,
I have not finished it. I'm guessing
there has been no modern day anything in this game.
No, nope. It's all set in Mesopotamia.
Yeah, there's no glitching. There's no, I mean, there's a little bit here and there, but like it's you would never know this was any kind of, like maybe it's not in the animus. Maybe it's literally just a flashback.
It might be. It's possible. But, I mean, I feel like the last games, I mean, Valhalla had animus stuff in it, but, like, it also took a long time before that stuff showed up, and it wasn't really... It
really was just at the act breaks.
Yeah, it wasn't even really all that much consequence either. Like,
the ending was.
Yeah.
But, like...
I feel like the games have kind of just went away from it over time.
Well, they lost their nerve on all of that, especially after the contract with, what's-her-name ended, and they didn't... And so they had to kill her character off. What was her name? Belle, you remember?
I don't remember. No.
Lucy, the blonde girl.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, played by a prominent actress who's for some reason.
Oh, was it Kristen Bell?
Kristen Bell. Yeah, that's it. And they, for whatever reason, she didn't want to do it again, or they didn't renew the contract, so they killed her off. And, and then you're just stuck with Desmond, and nobody wants that. So I will say, I wish they leaned a little more into if they're going to do modern day, you gotta basically just lean into Sean. Because Sean is the most entertaining character in the series. Yeah. The sarcastic modern-day British guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So there's the plot. We don't want to reveal too much for people who want to play it. That's the basic setup. But I would argue that, like, the plot, there's not a lot of motivation to keep going, really.
I mean, the motivation is you're assassinating people.
Yeah. It's I mean, that's it pretty much.
They don't have an actual overarching narrative identity for this franchise since Unity.
Pretty much.
Syndicate was a good game, but it didn't really have a lot to do to move the actual overarching thing forward. Ever since they kind of bunted on the Desmond story in 3, they've really fumbled around looking for a new way to frame all this, and then they kind of rebooted it with the Ancient trilogy, but that stuff didn't really pay off, and now it just feels like they're making games set in ancient times, which is fine, but like you'd think that without the framing device of the modern day thing to explain why you're doing all this, because no matter how like kind of aimless the ancient or the historical stories got in the old games, you always had the driving force of, well, we're doing this because we're trying to find this weird minutia out. It was even stuff like especially with like Connor, it was like, it was stuff that he didn't even know about. That character, Connor didn't even know about. It was just stuff that happened in his peripheral vision that they were hoping to catch glimpses of and deduce some things from that. He wasn't even important. Yeah. And then beyond that, you did that kind of thing where there was that period where you were working for literally working for Ubisoft, basically. Right. Yeah. And it was supposed to be like. They the Templars had formed game development companies so that everybody could go through all these memories and they'd monitor everybody's playtime to figure out if they could piece together accidentally. It was, but with this, it's just you're just playing the story. So it was weird to me that if you're going to eliminate the modern day framing device, you don't come up with a more compelling narrative for the time period and the characters you're dealing with in the historical setting. Yeah. Which they don't really here.
I found this story to be dreadfully boring. And most of the characters
boring,
to be really boring. And
I don't find it boring, but I do find it meandering.
I just didn't find anything interesting about it. Nothing caught me off guard. Everything just kind of happened how I expected it to.
I mean, that's been true of most of Assassin's Creed for a long time for me. But I think this is an interesting period of history. I do think it's an interesting setting, even if it is very brown.
Very brown.
It's interesting.
Million shades of brown.
It's interesting to me in the sense that and they don't really get into this except in some of the side stuff. Baghdad's a very new city in this setting.
Yeah,
like
should be.
Baghdad's maybe 150 years old here, which is like crazy to think about. I mean, you think of like most cities in.
Well, most people assume Baghdad goes back centuries and centuries.
And it does, to us, it's 1,000+ years old. But like to them, it's a pretty new city, and it's one of the most technologically advanced places in the world.
Yeah.
And that doesn't come across too well most of the time. But the part of the problem with that is like a lot of the places you've played Assassin's Creed games in have been cities that are ancient even at the time you're playing.
Right.
And,
they're already old.
Even Egypt in Origins. The pyramids are already 2,000 years old. Bayek lives closer to us than he does to the building of the pyramids. Like there's already tons of history there. It's even going back to the first game, like you're seeing like the mix of architecture and history from all these different cultures building on top of each other in Jerusalem. And like part of the problem with the way, and they're kind of stuck here because of where Valhalla takes place chronologically, but like. You don't have that kind of layering of history in Baghdad. It's a new city, and as such, it's a little empty.
It's boring,
and like
there's just nothing there. There's nothing going on.
Historically empty, and you go to
go to historical landmarks.
A lot of the historical landmarks are like. 500 years from now, this will happen, and this hill you're on will be important for that. But it hasn't happened yet. So to Basim,
I'll look at the map and I'll see that I'm standing next to a historical landmark, and I'll go back to the game and I'm like, where is it?
And actually, the historical landmark objects are the only Animus objects I can think of.
Yeah,
because they glitch.
Right, they do.
They actually do.
Yeah,
glitch.
they have like a little bit of that.
Now
effect
I think
to
about
them.
that.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's and I do think it's interesting just in the sense of like you don't get to see this kind of period of history from this point of view very often. Like there are no white people in this game.
I know, and I doubt we'll ever see it again.
Probably not. I mean, also because like I think the story's told here.
Yeah.
I would like to see a game set in like more medieval era Baghdad.
Yeah.
Like a later time, like Crusades era.
When the city's more built up and
where the city has a lot more history on it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what they can do with Red, which is slowly starting to wake up again.
Mm-hmm.
Rumor is next year.
Looks like next year. Yeah.
Which is interesting.
And that's set in Asia. So
yeah, that's finally the Japan one. I'm curious about that one because like that could either be really cool or fall really flat because it's a setting that's been done by other games and done real well. So
I'm way more excited for that than I am for this. This game to me, just the story, the plot, the setting, boring AF. Like I had no problem putting this game down and stopping playing.
Yeah, see, I don't agree with that. I think they did a fine job given where they had to set it pretty well. My problem is that gameplay wise, this is just Valhalla. And
it's not as drastic a change as I think people were expecting.
It's not as drastic a change as is warranted by what they have done to the way the game plays, to the game design. This is actually a return to the assassination style of game structure. Like you are investigating things, you are piecing things. Like the investigation board screen.
It's like raids, basically. You get presented with this palace,
but the
you need to figure out how to get in.
But
and
the
then
investigation screen is literally set up like a conspiracy board. Like it's like you got to go
a
here,
cork board. We have the strings tying the people
and
together.
That clue, and you don't have to get all that. You can put stuff together as on your own, and then like it all leads up to a big assassination thing, which, like you say, is like it's like a Hitman level almost. You got to go in, you find different ways to go in. You can decide which way you need to use it.
Joint before you go
Talk
in.
to different people, and like this guy wants they need their cargo, so you could sneak in and get the cargo and have them cause a big fuss and bring the guy you need to assassinate out when they try to leave against his will.
Yep.
Or you could go over here and have these guys freak out, or you could bring a circus in and everybody could distract him that way, and he might come out to go look at the circus, and then you can kill him that way. Like there's a bunch of different ideas and solutions there. The problem is the gameplay of Assassin's Creed, the old Assassins-based ones, evolved the way they did with a slight backslide in 3 because of what you needed to do in those games. And then they changed them to be more kind of action, open-worldy, combat-friendly in the Ancient Trilogy, in Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. And that was fine for those. But this is literally Valhalla's controls with slightly altered combat because Basim isn't supposed to be able to mow down 4,000 people
with tap R1 to
Eivor
kill.
does. Well, Eivor could just kill people like they were nothing, whereas Basim has to use the traditional counterattack kill thing. Like
counter kills are back, people.
Yeah, and early on it feels like, oh, he's very fragile and I got to be careful. No, you don't. Once you learn the timing, you can kill them all.
It's literally just like the old Assassin's Creed games where they all stand around waiting to die.
Yeah,
they
and every once in a while somebody uses an unblockable or somebody's got armor. You got to get behind them. It's like it's fine. It's the same old thing.
If they attack and it's yellow, you block.
It's funny.
If they attack and it's red, you dodge, and that's pretty much all you need to know.
It's funny that the limiting factor is not whether you can win the combat or not. The limiting factor is whether other people see you and your notoriety goes up, because then they'll give you away when you're trying to be sneaky to get in places.
Later on.
Yeah.
You'll forget about it.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, someone's like, he was a pickpocket. Get guards.
Yeah.
Get him. Like, you're...
And normally that doesn't matter, but if you're sneaking around where there's guards, it does.
Oh, it does,
and like if you're doing like that happened to me, like the first big assassination where you got to do it and figure out which way to go in and what to do. I was just killing people if they got in my way, and like all the people, it's in like a big crowded marketplace, and you've got all these people in the marketplace saying he's the killer, and like okay, this isn't working for me
this isn't good.
I can't get done. Like the guy I wanted to talk to get the thing I needed was running away. That was a problem.
Yeah.
So there is an element of that, but the problem for me is that it plays just like Valhalla, and Valhalla's gameplay in terms of running around and jumping and maneuvering and navigating the world was fine in Valhalla, where it was fairly open and the cities were kind of, mostly. If you're running,
the pathways were wide.
If you're running towards a wall in Valhalla, you probably want to climb
You're
it.
intentionally doing
but
it. But
in this game, you're running through pretty narrow streets and alleys, and just like with Edward Kenway and Connor, sometimes he's just grabbing shit.
Just starts running
and
up the wall.
I'm like, no, constantly. I'm like, no. What? And he like tries to outthink the direction you want to jump. Sometimes I'm like, I do not want to jump on that little post over there. I want to jump to the ground. Like it won't. It does not give you the precision and control that the old ones did, especially the Ezio era, which was needed to pull off the things they want you to pull off.
Yeah.
And I find it's the most disappointing thing of this game to me is that it's just a DLC for Valhalla in the end. And it's probably how it started. I think
it actually was kind of started as that.
It feels like it.
Yeah.
It does feel like it. Obviously, it's bigger and they add a lot more bloat to make it.
Yeah, it's over 20 hours.
Yeah.
No DLC generally lasts that long.
But it's definitely, like, I understand why it's only $50.
Yep, I do too. Yeah.
And the length is fine. It's got plenty to do in it. It's a respectable sized game. And you're seeing
not as many collectibles though. There's
not
some.
as many, but also like I don't miss.
Yeah, I don't
miss 5,000 feathers or like anything. That's fine. It's about right. It's
I think
about where
that
it
should stay for future installments of the franchise.
Yeah,
the number of collectibles.
The density is about right.
Yes.
Like if you want to expand the feudal Japan map out with more of it because it's a bigger area, great. But I don't need 4 new kinds of this doesn't need to be Banjo-Kazooie anymore. Like we're fine.
Here's the screen Matt and I were talking about, the corkboard investigation screen.
And this eventually expands out much
huge,
bigger.
Yeah.
It's probably the coolest new idea in the game.
Yeah.
And I would like to see them keep it and kind of evolve it moving forward.
Because it's your
But I'm sure they
screen.
won't, because Red is made by a totally different team and they're probably not even talking to each other.
It's really your mission screen though. That's where you go to like choose your missions and all that type of stuff. It's just a different way of presenting it.
But it's keeping
clever.
track of things, and each Order of the Ancient guy you're trying to track down. And they did that in Valhalla, but it's like that, the order screen, but like expanded out to be more like clue oriented and sort of exploring the world. And each one's kind of attached to a different bureau in the city, which kind of makes it like, so you can kind of jump between different ones. And sometimes you get something in one mission that explains something about the other guy. Then you go over there and progress that.
Yeah, it's it's kind of a detective based game.
Like that all kind of weaves together pretty well. The problem for me is just they did not revamp or even maybe regress the gameplay to play like it should work.
Yeah.
The way, I mean, they adapted the game design and they did not adapt, which I like. I like all that. I like that they pulled it back and made the investigation more important and the assassinations more freeform and a big event like they did in the first game. Honestly, in the first game was the last time I remember them being like, it's less boring in that, because the first game was like you got to sit around and listen to guys talk while you're sitting on a bench. But when you got to the
there's eavesdropping in this too, though.
But not as bad as something like Black Flag, where you're constantly sneaking through bushes for like half a game.
Yeah.
But like, I like that all builds up in those older games to a big assassination moment where you're like, okay, here's the location. The guy you're trying to kill is in there. Figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's great. That's the best. That's Assassin's Creed at its best, but it can't be at its best in this.
Well, there's only 5 of them in this, too.
Right. Well, yeah, that's too. But, okay, it's $10 per kill is fine. But, like, my problem is that the gameplay, the actual controls are not here to support that kind of game design. And you can muddle your way through, but I never felt good doing it.
I think the controls in this feel like mud, like mush. Yeah. It just doesn't feel responsive at all.
There's no precision. There's no stat. And again, fine in the Valhalla world. Yeah. But when you're trying, I feel like you need to do some really split-second stuff in this game and really be able to like make him do what he needs to do. Like, I'm like, oh, this is happening. That situation changed. That guy's looking over here. They heard this. I got to get over this thing and drop. If you just need to do something which would have been simple in the old like Ezio games, I need to hop over this railing, drop down to one floor, swing through the window, and come back up the other side. Good fucking luck, because you're going to be sitting there hitting the B button to make him drop, and like did he drop? I don't know, because this thing slows down so much that like there's such control lag that you're like, maybe he did, but actually he took 2 B button presses, so he's going to drop down 2 ledges, and now you're completely out of position and you've landed on the ground, and the guard that was on the ground sees you, and it's over. Like it happens all the time, and it's
combat
really
feels
annoying.
Like nothing. Like when you do the counter kills and you do like the
there's no force or anything.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Feel nothing.
Like, he literally just places his sword in people's
in their
chests.
body.
Like, there's no
feedback in the controller. There's no audio cues. It's just bad.
It's awful.
Yeah.
In a way that Assassin's Creed has never been bad.
It's never been like that.
The gameplay in this game is the least satisfying it has ever been.
I agree.
In this series.
Yeah.
That is, like, I don't mind the setting, the story's fine, characters fine. The gameplay is what has just left me out in the cold on this, and it doesn't have to be that way because they've done it before.
Yeah. Well, there's other weird things, too. There's like, so in this game, there's synchronizing. You climb up towers, and then you get to the perch, and you synchronize, and then you jump down into the hay or whatever. But, like, the synchronized thing never goes away. So if you keep climbing up, you can keep synchronizing those points. They never go away.
Oh, you could always do that.
I've never noticed that before.
Yeah, that's always been true.
Really?
Yeah. You could, because they want to let you...
I have never noticed that.
Yeah, you've always been able to,
really?
To redo that. Yeah.
Why?
So you can see the pretty rotation thing they spent all that time on.
How have I never noticed that?
I don't know. I've done that a couple times. I've done that in older games where I went up there and I accidentally hit the button. And
I noticed it on the very first perch in this game for some reason. I never noticed it in the thousands of hours I spent playing.
I don't know if it's
games.
every single one of them, but you can redo the sync rotation shot in most of them.
Weird. I've never noticed that until this game.
One thing I will say that I think might be different on this one. Usually, when you fast travel to a sync point, in the other games, you don't have the option to sync to do that scene. Yeah. In this one, you do. Yeah. So sometimes I've fast traveled, accidentally hit the Y button, and had to watch the scene again. That I do not. Usually, I think they're smart. The other games are smart enough to disable that.
It's weird. I don't know why it does it in any case. It makes no sense. Like
it's there if you want, because it's a pretty shot, and if you want to see it again, you can see it again. That's what it is. Those are.
Put that in some cinema option in the menus, like,
because it's real time. That's why it's important. That's the thing about this game too. Is like there are moments, the sync shots and some stuff. There are moments in this game where it is absolutely jaw-droppingly gorgeous, and then there's scenes like this.
You see the character models
where these characters are like, "Are you from the PS4, sir?" Because I don't think you're in the right game. Also,
the Anvil engine needs work on hair. The hair. I mean, as you can see, they put hats on everybody in this game, so they don't have to show off their horrible hair tech, but. It looks so bad.
That's one of the advantages of setting it in the Islamic world, is so many people have their head covered.
Right, yeah.
Like you don't have to show long hair.
Yeah, no, you're right. You don't have to make it look convincing at all.
The beard tech is on point. But the actual hair, everyone's got like Unreal Engine hair. Yeah. From Unreal Engine 3.5 hair. Yeah. So like this is gorgeous. Like I love, and like they clearly put a lot of work into the lighting on this. Like Unity probably looks a little better from like a just aesthetic point of view, especially if you're like in Notre Dame and you're seeing the light filter in through the stained glass and stuff. Yeah. But that's baked lighting. This is real time. Oh, yeah. And like and it
you can
really
tell when
looks
the sun's
cool.
starting to go down, the shadows get longer.
It's really nice, but it's such a.
There are other parts that look horrible.
Down. Yeah, it's so all over the place.
And again, the setting, everything is brown. Just look at all this footage that you've been seeing. It's just 80 different shades of brown. Like you get to Baghdad, there's domes that are blue, and they stand out so much because it's the only color in the whole city. Like, it's after a while, I was just like, I don't know. This is, to me, is the most boring Assassin's Creed I've ever played. Like, the plot, the setting, the protagonist, the antagonist, like everything about it just bored me. Like, every Assassin's Creed, like when I first started playing it, like, I'm locked down, dude. Even the ones that I don't end up liking that much, I guarantee you I played the first 20 plus hours of those games without ever even thinking about stopping. And this game, like, I had no problem putting it down and coming back later. I was like, okay, like...
Yeah, I still like it. I definitely played... it was hard to put this down and go over to Forza.
I can see that. I could see.
But, I mean, I would put it in the lower half.
Yeah.
But I still think Unity is the most boring game in the series.
Yeah, I also found that game to be that
Unity
way.
nailed the traversal probably better than any other game after the Ezio games, but I just do not give a shit about Arno.
Yeah.
Or honestly, and Ubisoft wasn't ready for that yet, but the character you played in Unity should have been his girlfriend.
Yeah.
She should have been because she's the only one anything fucking happens to.
Yeah.
That game should be called Assassin's Creed A Day Late and $1 Short because all he's doing is happening upon the place his girlfriend was just at.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this is certainly not Assassin's Creed at its best or even at its mediocre. Really, much of the time.
I do like that Eagle Vision and the Eagle in general is a much bigger part of this game. I hardly ever used him in the last few. Like,
I used them in the ancient games all the time.
I hardly used them very much for the last few entries.
That is the unusual thing about this is they have actually incorporated the Eagle Vision, the Eagle aerial thing into an assassin level.
Yeah, because you plan out your missions using the Eagle now.
Which works. Like, that's good.
Absolutely. It gives you clues. It shows you, like, sneaky entrance points into the palace, all that.
The other thing I had to relearn, and this is also a callback to some degree of the first game, is like you do all this stuff to sneak around, because I do like to try to be as unobtrusive, in and out, like nobody's played in the crowd kind of thing. But every time you do one of the big assassinations, you do the thing, you sneak up on over here, okay, can't see me, gets that thing up there, drop down on it, and then the cutscene is like, he lands on him in the middle of the square, strings him up with a giant rope, holds him up there, and sounds like a gong. And you're like, oh, you're sending a message. I see. Like, what did I do all that shit for then? Why don't I just fight my way in and stab him? Like, what the? Yeah. But that was also Altair used to do this stuff like that too. So that was kind of funny. Where I was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna totally. No one's ever gonna know I was here. It's just like, no, they know you were there. You didn't have a fucking mask on, you idiot.
This game is also more like GTA in that when the heat is on, you definitely feel the difference in it. And a big part of the game is like getting rid of the heat. And there's a couple different ways you can do it. There's a certain enemy that'll show up that you can kill, and that'll wipe it all out.
Yeah, they send like an Arabian ninja after you.
Yeah.
So if you beat him, your notoriety goes, which I think is the notoriety thing. I want to say started in Brotherhood. It was definitely an Ezio game because I remember him complaining about the likeness on the posters.
Yeah,
but it's the same thing. You can either kill the guy who comes after you when it maxes out, tear wanted posters down, or pay the town crier to say you're not.
So there's this whole
bad.
system of like these coins that you find and collect throughout the game.
Which is it's important. Pickpocketing matters in this game
lot.
For the first time maybe in the entire series because you actually get important shit from it.
Well, that's where you get all those coins. Like, you can find them, but they take forever to find.
You get those coins in decent amounts from the contracts, from the side missions. But, like, you're talking about a 20 to 30 minute side mission to get, like, 4 of those coins.
Yeah.
Or 5 pickpockets in like less than a minute to get 4 of those coins.
Right.
So you're getting literal side quest rewards from pressing the button twice.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Some of the missions too, you get bonuses for not being damaged, for sneaking in. So to your point where you're like, I like to go in, have nobody touch me, do the assassination, and get out. You're actually rewarded for playing that way in this game as well.
For certain ones, everyone has there's various bonus abilities. Like either don't get detected or don't take any damage.
Yep.
Or kill with fire. That's my favorite one. I'm like, I had to upgrade one of my bombs to be able to set somebody on fire because the guy, the the contract giver wanted me to burn the guy to death. So all right, customer's always right. So
I found the coin system to be okay. Like,
well, early on I was like, oh my god, the coins are so
I can't
it's hard
find
to get them. Like, it's like,
and then I started pickpocketing.
Like, I can't imagine giving a green coin to the merchant just get 10% off, and then you're like, oh, I have 40 of them now because I realize that pickpocketing is actually the strongest skill in the game.
Yep, absolutely. And then there's like a contracts board where you accept like faction quests to gain favor with the various factions. There's like 3 different factions in Baghdad.
This is also interesting because this is absolutely not what happens in the game.
No. Well, this is a cinematic trailer. This is a debut trailer. This is the first. They're just trying to set the scene or whatever. But you're right. Now that you've played the game, it's always funny watching these trailers after you've actually played the game. It's always like, now I see why they decided to do that. Like,
when it feels like this was probably your proof of concept. This is probably what they pitched the game to the Ubisoft
CGI,
brass for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what it seems like, yeah. So there's like the contracts board where there's like faction quests. So you always have there's always tons of side quests available. You don't have to keep plowing through the main campaign if you don't want to. Because I feel like a lot of people are like, okay, how called back is this game? Like, what does it exactly strip out? And that's what's been interesting to me playing this, is figuring out what stuff they decided to keep and which stuff they decided to add and which stuff they're like, oh, that doesn't work in the context of this framework of this older styled game. That's been kind of the most interesting part of playing this for me anyway.
Yeah. They stripped out like the base building, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't miss that. The one thing I do miss, though, is how you used to be able to send out the assassins on missions, and there was this whole interface where you'd have like this cadre of assassins, and then they come back and bring back rewards, and this is kind of happening like meta underneath the surface of the game. Like, I do kind of miss that a little bit.
The organization of the hidden ones isn't really robust enough for that at this point. Like, I did, I replayed Rogue earlier this year, and like that, those sending everybody out on the sailing missions, the cargo missions, managing your fleet and stuff. Like, that's fun. And also, they've never. Nothing in terms of sort of like your bonus ability or whatever things in these games, nothing has ever matched Brotherhood when you could hit the button and just he would just call in dudes and call like that was the coolest thing.
Great.
And they've never matched that again. Now in this, I guess because he's so low level, that he wouldn't be able to be involved.
He shouldn't be the guy doing that.
Like other games, you have been playing basically pretty important people, and that is maybe one of the most notable things about this game is this may be the least important assassin you've ever played.
No, seriously.
I can see why they didn't put that on the box. Like, be the least consequential guy ever, and because he becomes obviously important later by the time of Valhalla, but at this point he's just like the newbie who doesn't know shit about shit. I don't. There's
the skill trees.
You know what? Even in this footage, Baghdad looks more colorful than it does in the final game.
No, you're right. There are 3 different skill trees. They're pretty simple. It doesn't take all that long to get pretty much all of them maxed out.
Also, like, half of them suck.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the abilities are either sort of like, you should have these to begin with, or like...
Well, the Phantom Tree is for, like, assassinations.
Yeah, I'll tell you the one thing that there's a thing they don't do much in the game.
The pole.
The pole thing shows up a couple times in the opening, and then you never see it again.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say, the pickpocket upgrade skill, go get that sucker.
No, because that bar sometimes is... You have to be good sometimes.
You have to be real close. Like this, and the pickpocket skill, some of it then becomes automatic, but it doesn't have one of the merchant coins in it.
Right.
But like if you do, the bar is like 5 times thicker
it makes
for
a big
the space you have. So get that. That's
there's 3 trees. The Phantom Tree is for assassinations and the focus bar. The Trickster Tree is for tools and pickpocketing, and then the Predator Tree is mostly for eagle vision.
Mostly for the eagle, but the bottom of the Predator Tree auto tags people if you're undetected and crouching, which is the best top level skill.
That's important. Yep. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say I didn't enjoy my time playing this game, but I didn't really have a lot of fun with it. I felt like I was just kind of going through the motions a lot of times.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fine. It's fine.
I would agree with that.
It kind of fills in the gap. Is better than not getting into Assassin's Creed this year.
Yeah.
But I do hope that Red is a little more robust, thought out. Something. I mean, they need to revamp it a little bit. They need to rethink some of this stuff, and just having it play the same as the Ancient Trilogy games is not working for me.
I'm a little worried about how they've cut the corners in some things in this game, like graphically, like people have money bags like on their belt that you pickpocket or whatever, but every time they show the money bag, it's like you're holding a cannonball, and like when characters touch stuff and grab stuff, like they haven't done the Naughty Dog work, is what I'm getting at. Where
but Ubi's never going to do that.
Yeah, I just feel like this is almost like a step back in some ways, and maybe that's on purpose, and that's why it's only $50. Like, I don't know.
I mean, it doesn't feel like they've done that forever with these. It looks exactly like the previous two.
Yeah,
like it's all the same. Some of it's the same animations.
Yeah.
Like,
and then how about the obnoxious Ubisoft Connect notifications that pop up and take up like half the freaking screen? It's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, and they come up constantly. Like, I'm always ticking off achievements from Ubisoft's weird like Connect thing.
Yeah, they finally stopped as I kind of like maxed all those out.
Yeah. Well, eventually you get them all, but for the first like 10 hours of the game, it's just constantly these huge overlays.
And you're like, what did I do? And it turns out to be like, eat 10 pots.
Right.
You're like, okay. Like, what? I didn't even know we were tracking that, but okay.
Yeah, playing this game, I never felt like something exciting was about to happen. It just never built me up like emotionally to like, oh, things are getting heavy now. Things are important now. This person's important. This mission's important. It just stayed at kind of like this low buzz, and just there was no like peaks or valleys to play in the game. Even like one of the peaks was getting on the camel for the first time and riding the camel.
Even look at that thing where they're kind of riding to Baghdad in those scenes, and like you get the shot of like the really blue sky through the archway, and then the haboob, the big the sandstorms coming in.
Yeah,
there are no sandstorms in this game. Like nothing like that ever happens. Like,
well, the other thing I would say too, Matt,
you don't even get rain because it's the fucking desert. Like,
right. Well,
nighttime is the only interesting thing that happens.
Well, the worst part to me about the setting for this is like the towns are pretty boring on their own, but you get outside of the towns and there is nothing. It is just sand.
Yeah.
It's
accurate.
I mean, it's accurate, but it also is just boring AF.
It's clearly a reason they give you the mount from the start.
Yeah, and the mount, by the way, is like as fast as a Ferrari. Like that camel can run like 60 miles an hour.
That's a rocket.
And I think you're right. I think that's why. It's like because there's nothing in between the spaces in this game. Like it's just dead. It's just sand and desert and dunes. Like
you can also ride on boats, but I've never found a reason to do that.
Yeah. Because there's like the oases in this are rare because it's in the desert. Like there just isn't that much
a river,
water.
But it's like there's no reason to be on the river.
Right.
Like, you're like, I'm on the Euphrates and I'm off.
And I'm off. And now I'm on the bank. But I mean, I hate to say it. Like I wouldn't say I was like completely bored playing this, but I was bored a lot of the time.
Yeah, I wasn't bored, but I'm just very disappointed that they didn't revamp the gameplay in any way to match the change in how they were designing the assassination ideas. Like, it doesn't work. It worked for the way they framed everything and the action-oriented elements of the ancient, especially Odyssey and Valhalla. It doesn't work here. And I feel like I'm fighting the controls too much.
I agree.
And that's my big thing. I like the trappings of everything. I wish they had more personality in the entries. I got the best codexes in this game series are always when they're written by Sean Hastings, the guy who the sarcastic British guy. And I know that there's no framing device of the Animus to justify that, but who fucking cares?
Yeah, just make it interesting.
Put a little personality in here once in a while, for God's sake.
I agree. This is also one of those times where I saw a game in its debut trailer, and almost everything I thought about it from that debut trailer ended up being true. I thought the combat looked weird. I thought that the traversal looked like it was way too automatic, and it was doing a bunch of stuff on its own. I thought the graphics looked shoddy. All of that turned out to ultimately be true, in my opinion. Yeah,
I just really thought a lot of that I thought was a given because it's Ubisoft, but I really thought they would tweak how the game played. I didn't think it would feel like a Valhalla mod as much as it does. I thought they would change some things to fit the fact that they were sort of taking it back to an assassination model rather than an action combat model.
I mean, that part is accurate. Like
they do, but like the controls don't support it. Like still it didn't matter how awkward it was to get down off a ledge when you were Eivor,
right?
Or when you Cassandra, because Cassandra could jump off anything and not take damage because she had a magic fucking spear.
Yeah,
Whereas like this is sort of like you have to like do all and like because I keep thinking back to the Ezio stuff and how I could make that game fucking dance in a way that just doesn't. It's not possible here.
No, you're right.
And it's just
something
a shame.
awkward is inevitably going to happen.
Yeah. Even I remember when I started to feel like things were really getting more off track was Syndicate. As much as I liked that game, the two things that were the problem for me in Syndicate was the grappling hook everything had to stop to use the grappling hook. Like it wasn't like a thing you Spider-Man out and do whatever. You had to stop, equip it, aim it at a thing, aim it at a specific point that could be grappled, and then grapple up, and it was sort of an interruption of the
Nobody
parkour.
wants that.
And they kept making me play as Jacob, and Jacob sucks. Those two things were like, maybe you guys do need to bring this back to basics because you seem to have forgotten what makes this Assassin's Creed thing work. And I was kind of hoping in the interim of the Ancient Trilogy they'd have learned that, had some new ideas, and said, now we can kind of go back and people don't have the same expectations, so we can sort of tweak it and make this a different thing. And even if Red turns out to be basically Valhalla in Japan, you have this side series that's sort of like doing the more folded in assassination stuff, and they just don't, because it plays exactly the goddamn same as the Viking game. Yeah. So, and that's the disappointment to me. The fact that they didn't think the traversal needed any kind of work or help or tweaking off of like the last two, when you're changing the design so much,
so drastically,
is just I just don't understand.
It's a little weird. Yep, for sure. So, final verdict on this. I can't give this a thumbs up, Matt. I can't tell people to buy this, even though it's at a discounted rate at just the $50. Like, look, if you're a hardcore Assassin's Creed fan, you already bought it. Yeah. You're going to buy all of them. But if you're someone who like buys the good ones, like, I would stay away from this one.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't going to change your mind about anything. It's not. If you didn't like how the last couple have played, this is the same, except the combat's less robust. Yeah. It's. Like I'm. If you're interested in the setting, if you're interested in kind of 9th century Baghdad,
all 10 of you,
or the I mean, there's people who major in that.
No,
shit.
I know.
Or the investigation idea, like they do that okay. But again, all the stuff that's interesting there, you got to remember it's tempered by the fact that it plays traversally. It plays exactly like the last few. Yeah, and that doesn't really gel with this style of game. I mean, it is only $50. Which
I would wait to get it at like 30 or 40.
But given the competition out there right now and the other releases this month, and Spider-Man's coming up next Friday, like, just pick this up.
New Mario coming in a week.
Pick this up for $19.99 in 6 months.
I agree. Yeah, it's a shame because I do like the concept. I like the idea that they're trying to make it a throwback to the games that I enjoyed more than the last couple. But you're right. Like, they only took parts of it back. They didn't take all of it back. And you're right. You need to re-examine how the interaction works with the game if you're going to change the design that drastically. So let's see what you guys are saying. I'm guessing some of you guys have been playing it yourselves. Surf Spider, I have never played more than a couple hours of any Assassin's Creed game, mostly due to the overwhelming time sink required. They are big games, yep. I look at the map and I'm like, nope. Would this be worth playing as a gateway into the franchise? It's a manageable commitment. Yeah.
I mean, it is probably the most manageable map of the series.
It definitely is, but also I feel like they're getting off on the wrong foot with the franchise. Yeah. They may not want to play more of them, and they're better games in the franchise. I don't want it to scare you off, is what I'm getting at. And AJ the Legend Watson says that it's on Game Pass. No, it's not. Faradol says that Basim is also a lot more appealing to spend time with.
Than Eivor?
Then Eivor, yeah. Eivor, I hated it.
Eivor is kind of a zero.
Yeah. I do like
especially
Basim
coming
more.
off Cassandra, who's probably one of the best Assassin's Creed protagonists. Yeah. It's...
I agree with that for sure. Vincent asks, does this make you more or less excited for Hexy? Which, I'll be honest with you, of the 3 Assassin's Creed games that we know are coming, Hexy is what I'm most excited for. It's set in like witchcraft and like...
I need to know more about what it is before I get excited about it.
I also feel
I'm also not super excited about Red from a point of view of like, I know everybody wanted them to do feudal Japan forever, but like, just because everybody wanted it doesn't mean it's the right call. And it feels like they're kind of giving into this setting that may or may not really serve the idea. Because the thing is, like, feudal Japan isn't really an interesting building setup. They're all kind of the same size. It's not a very interesting parkour setting.
Well, there's also like the way their buildings are constructed. Like, I don't know how you climb them.
Yeah,
like
I mean, poor people going to have a lot of holes in the wall.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you almost are going to need like a grappling hook or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting around kind of the pagoda thing.
Right, that's what I'm talking about.
But I'm talking about the fact that most structures were about one or two story. Like,
you're right.
There's not. I mean, you thought this was samey.
Not a lot of verticality. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what you do with that.
What I would say though is like, I think with this franchise, if there's an entry that you don't like, that shouldn't doom you for the rest of the franchise, because these are really like all over the place. Like there's no real rhyme or reason to them.
Yeah,
like,
honestly, go play Black Flag.
Yeah, and they're doing a remaster of that like soon.
Yeah, maybe wait for the remaster of Black Flag.
Yeah,
that's one of the better ones. I mean, I like Rogue more than Black Flag, but that A seems to be a minority opinion, and B, I think Rogue is as good as it is because I contrast it with Black Flag. Rogue learned a lot from Black Flag and avoided some of the same pitfalls.
Yeah.
But I don't think it plays as well as an introduction to the franchise, in part because you're playing a traitor.
Yeah.
It's not really...
You're not playing as a good guy.
Yeah, part of the novelty is you're playing as a turncoat.
Yeah, a rogue. Yeah.
It was interesting, but it's mostly interesting to me because I know the rest of the series.
Right.
Edward Kenway is a better introduction. Also, the sea shanties in Black Flag are better. And the sea shanties are very important.
They are, yeah.
There are no sea shanties in this game.
Yeah.
In fact, when I saw... There's moments where you can see there's a guy with a musical note over him who turns out to be someone you can just kind of bribe, and he'll sing to
give him a
distract the
coin
guards.
and he'll distract. Yeah.
I thought he was going to sing like classical, like I don't know, like Arabic songs or like Islamic hymns or something. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And then it's just like a distraction.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I thought it was going to be like the sea shanty equivalent of like Baghdad in the 9th century.
No.
And it was not.
Yeah.
And another bitter disappointment.
That's something else to use the coins for, is to bribe people to help you, basically.
Yeah, for dumb reasons to use the coins. Like, I barely use the coins for anything except like...
I use them. Like, to sneak into palaces, you can find groups outside the palace. You give them a coin, and they all walk in, and you don't have to worry about going through like the convoluted way to get in. You just give them the coin, and you just walk in with them. You just blend in with them. But again, it's something that was in the earlier games that kind of went away over time.
Although you didn't have to pay them for that.
That's true.
Usually you just found a group of monks and conveniently sort of joined the crowd, and and none of the brothers apparently really cared that some dude in a totally different colored robe they'd never met before was like wandering around with them.
Yeah, suspension of disbelief there. So anyway, there you go. That's Assassin's Creed Mirage. It's basically available for everything but Switch. And with Ubisoft, I wouldn't be surprised if eventually we get a cloud version of this for Switch someday. But it's not there yet. But it's available for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. But that's 2 do-not buys from Matt and I. And unfortunately, that's not something you usually hear from us about Assassin's Creed. But that's how it's worked out this time. Next up, we're going to talk about a game maybe some of you guys have been playing over the last few days. And that is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer. It's still really weird to me, Matt, that... Xbox basically owns Call of Duty, and the first weekend of the beta was PlayStation exclusive, and that's going to continue.
It's not. They don't own them really yet,
right? I mean, I think it's next week. It actually finally goes
close
through.
is supposed to. Yeah,
next
but then
week.
You're going to take a year and a half to really finish the merge, and it's all the contracts are still in place. It's not going to be that.
So anyway, if you're a PlayStation 5 owner, I think it was on PlayStation 4 as well. You got to the first 2 days of the beta, you could only play if you had pre-ordered it. And then on Sunday, it cracked open to all PlayStation owners. And then for the rest of you, this coming weekend, it will be open to everybody on Xbox and PlayStation. But it is actually still running today. So it started on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it'll end up being like a 4-day early access period for the multiplayer mode. And I was actually pleasantly surprised by how robust it was, like how much was in there. There were 4 normal maps, and then there was a brand new map for Ground War, which is basically Call of Duty's attempt at Battlefield multiplayer on gigantic maps with vehicles and all that kind of stuff. Just a little bit of context before we start discussing the nuts and bolts of this. This was supposed to be an expansion of Modern Warfare 2. This game was not supposed to be its own game. And consequently, there's actually some fringe benefits of that. And the fringe benefits are that any of the gear that you unlocked in the Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer is supposed to transfer over to Modern Warfare 3. So your favorite gun that you spent all that time in the gunsmith tweaking out to where it was perfect for how you play, you can bring that gun in. However, this week in the beta, that did not work. It wasn't supposed to work. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that like it's supposed to be there and it wasn't. They said all along that feature was not going to be in the beta. So I did not get to use my weapon from Modern Warfare 2 in this, and instead we had to start from scratch. And like most Call of Duty games, for the first 4 levels, you have to choose from the loadouts that they give you, and there were 3 in the beta. And again, like typical Call of Duty multiplayer, those loadouts give you things that you will not be able to unlock for a really long time. And in some cases, even though I played until the level cap, which was 20, I still never unlocked some of that stuff. So just so you know, when you go to play the beta this weekend, like, look at those loadouts that they give you, those 3 loadouts that you start with, because there's some cool stuff in there that the beta will not give you no matter how much you play or how much you level up. So anyway, ultimately, content from Modern Warfare 2 will transfer over into Modern Warfare 3. It's not there yet. The game will also have its own campaign, and it has a brand new take on zombies, open world zombies. Now, I've never been a zombies fan, Matt. I don't know if you have ever been.
No. I like the idea, but I don't think they've ever really done it very well.
I agree. This time, it's open world. And this is not in the beta. I haven't had a chance to play it. I'm just letting you guys know what's in the game, aside from the multiplayer stuff that I actually had a chance to play. So as I said, there's 5 maps in the beta. 4 of them are classic Call of Duty maps. There was, for the first 3 days, there was only 3. Or first 2 days. There was Favela, Skid Row, and Estate. And then on Sunday, they dropped Rust. Do you remember Rust?
Vaguely.
It's that really small, claustrophobic map where you spawn and get killed immediately. Mm-hmm. And so I spent most of Sunday and Sunday night playing Rust. And then the other 3 maps I was pretty sick of by the time the weekend got to the end. Favela was like this map that I was like, I love Favela. And then by the 3rd day of playing Favela, I was like, okay, I'm good. So, and then Estate, like, I'll say this, it was a nostalgia trip playing this weekend. It took me back to so many memories of playing Call of Duty at all the different places that I worked, and the people that I worked with, and the people who I was friends with that I worked with that were into Call of Duty as much as I was, like Rohan at Game Trailers. He was a huge COD guy, and he and I would always dive into the betas together and, like, team up, and, like, it just was like a huge nostalgia rush. And that's the thing about this that may turn some people off and may make other people like it, is that when it launches on November 10th, all the maps in the game will be old maps. There will be 16 launch maps, and every single one of them are classic maps from the 2009 original Modern Warfare 2. And now again, like, it was awesome playing some of these maps and remembering, like, spots that I had, like, used to sit in and, like, scope out, like, the map, like, rediscovering all those strategies was kind of fun. And again, like, it gave me this, like, warm, nostalgic feeling. Other people may not feel that way playing through all these old maps. Now, to be fair, once the game launches, they have 12 brand new maps that will be released as seasonal content as the game goes on. That sucks, honestly. Like, I feel like at launch, they should have at least 4 or 5 new maps in addition to all the old ones. I don't know how other people feel about it, but that's how I feel. Again, I've played all these maps literally hundreds and hundreds of times, and I kind of already know, like, where the choke points are, where the good sniper spots are, where the good camping spots are. I kind of have that all figured out for these maps, so in some ways it was nostalgic. In other ways, I felt like I was also kind of going through the motions a little bit. One thing I will say, they have made tweaks to the gameplay. The movement is definitely faster. The slides are faster than Modern Warfare 2, which is a huge upgrade to me. Like, I hated the slides in Modern Warfare 2 from last year. It almost felt like they were in slow motion in a lot of ways, but they have sped up the movement in general, so the traversal is a lot quicker. It has retained one of the new features from Modern Warfare 2 where you jump on a wall and you can actually hang on the wall and stay there. Like, you don't have to, like, mantle up or mantle down. And you can use it as cover and, like, peek up over the wall and shoot. That was a cool feature from last year's game that they've managed to carry over into this one. What else? Time to kill. One of the most important things in any first-person shooter. Activision had said that it was extending the time to kill in Modern Warfare 3 compared to last year's Modern Warfare 2. I'll be honest with you, playing the game, I really struggled to feel a difference. But if you actually look at the game, in this year's game, you have 150 hit points, and in last year's game, you had 100. Now, again, I'm telling you, I didn't feel like I could feel the difference from last year's game. And I had jumped back and played Modern Warfare 2 after this to try to see if I could tell the difference. I really struggled to see it. Like, it may be like 2 milliseconds difference in time to kill. Activision is saying it's longer, which should give people who aren't quite as good a better chance of survival. And the only time I would say that maybe I could notice it was when somebody was trying to shoot me from far away. So if somebody saw me running across an open area from like 100 yards or more, and they're trying to shoot me as I'm running, it seemed like I survived those runs a little more often than I would in the past. But otherwise, I really didn't notice the shorter time to kill. You may notice it more than I did, but I really didn't. What else? Aim assist in this game, it feels like they've dialed it back. Like, you don't get the weird thing where if you don't have your thumb on the stick and an enemy runs by, your reticle starts dragging across the screen even though you're not touching the analog stick. It's there. It snaps a little bit. Like, if you have your reticle generally in the right area, it will snap to the enemy, but it's not crazy like some Call of Duties have been, where it literally almost takes over. Like, there have been times playing Call of Duty where I'm like, am I even playing this anymore? The aim assist is so much. In this, it feels like they've definitely dialed it back a good bit. There are around 20 weapons I counted in the beta, and obviously there's going to be a lot more in the final game. The Pick 10 system has been replaced with a Pick 5, so you only can have 5 attachments on your gun at a time. However, there are actually like 9 attachments on your gun, so you have to pick and choose like which attachments you want to use, but you can never have them all in use at once. So you have to make decisions. Do you want a bigger clip so you don't have to reload as often? Do you want special ammunition that'll go through walls? Or do you want to spend those five attachments that you have on just making the gun have as little kick as possible so that you can aim better? It's all decisions that you have to make, but I will admit, like, I don't know, by the time I got my gun to like level 6 or whatever, I kind of had it set up and I never needed to go back and change it again. Like, and so it felt like the Pick 5 system was just pointless, honestly. And like, you start diving into it, you start looking at the attachments that you haven't attached to your gun, and the changes are so minuscule. I don't know. I felt like the whole pick system and the gun customization and the gunsmith stuff in this was just way more simple and rudimentary than it has ever been in Call of Duty. Well, maybe not ever, but ever since the Pick 10 system popped up, which I think Black Ops 2 was the first one to have Pick 10, if I remember correctly. But anyway, they simplified it. I don't think they simplified it for the better. It wasn't all that complicated in the first place. It's not like people didn't understand how it worked. Like, it's, again, I've talked about this before. It's like Madden. They introduce a new feature. It sticks around for 2 years. It goes away. They wait 5 years. They bring it back again, and they try to act like it's a new feature again. A lot of that type of stuff is happening with Call of Duty multiplayer, and it has been happening for quite a while. But yeah, like, all the attachments, they're just a shade different than something else. Like, I don't know. It all seemed kind of pointless to me in the end, and I found that, like, I just stopped tinkering with it, and I didn't use it as much as I have in the past. I don't know if that was their aim, but if that is, they succeeded. It also makes almost all the guns in each class feel the same, because you just can't make them work differently enough using the attachments like you could before, when you could attach like 8 or 9 different things to each gun. Spawning... Every first-person shooter beta that I've ever been in, the spawning needs work. So I'm not trying to raise a stink about this. It's always a problem that they don't solve until they have all the data from the betas. So the problem is, in Rust, it was a nightmare. Like, there would literally be someone just standing there waiting to shoot you as soon as you spawn. Like, they figured out where the 4 or 5 spawn points are, and they would just camp them and just wait for you to spawn. I did it. There was points where I found like a spawn point, and I just sat there and just kept my gun trained on that spot. And as soon as they would spawn, plap, 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 dead. Plap, 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 dead. Plap, 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 dead. And you can just roll up the kills. And that's something that will be fixed and is easily fixable. Spawn points, spawn timing, all that kind of stuff. That's all data-driven. They'll have to use the data that they've collected from this beta to make that work better. So that's just a matter of time. As far as the modes are concerned, nothing cool or out of the ordinary. There's Team Deathmatch, Kill Confirmed, Hardpoint, Domination, and Ground War, which is the big battles, just like Battlefield. And those rotated through and cycled through. None of them worked any differently than they have in the past. They all kind of function exactly the same as they always have. Ground War is 32 versus 32, and there's tons of vehicles on the map. One thing I like about Ground War versus Battlefield is almost every time I spawn, there's a vehicle waiting for me. And in Battlefield, that is never the case. Battlefield, every time I spawn, there's never a vehicle waiting, and I have to run like 5 miles just to get sniped by somebody in the head and have to do it all over again. Almost every time I spawn in Ground War, there was some kind of a vehicle waiting for me. And it just so happened that, like, even after playing just a few matches of Ground War, I had used all the vehicles that were in it, because they just spawn more quickly, and they're smart about how they spawn as far as the variety is concerned, so I thought that was really good. They've completely changed... Oh, there's also squad spawning in Ground War, which is a big Battlefield thing that's in Call of Duty as well, so you can spawn on your teammates. You also get bonus points for doing that. One thing that they've changed is the perk system. There were 3 perks that you could select in Modern Warfare 2. This time there's 4, but they've done it differently. They're pieces of clothing that you equip. There's a vest, there's boots, there's gloves, and there's one like general miscellaneous gear slot that's just kind of like a hodgepodge of options. And then there's like each one of those has 4 or 5 different things that you unlock as you play. And again, a lot like the Pick 5 Gunsmith, they're just shades of each other. Like it ultimately, the only one that really mattered to me all that much were the vests, because the vests will change your actual loadout. Like if you wear a certain vest, you won't even have a lethal in your loadout at all. It'll just completely eliminate it. So, but it will help you run faster, or it will give you like more like damage protection or whatever. So there's a little bit more of a yin and a yang to the vests than there are to the other pieces of gear, but really they're just camouflaging, doing the perk system in a different way, and now you have 4 instead of 3. Some of the stuff seems a little unbalanced. Like there's this one tactical equipment you can get called Battle Rage. It's like this injection that you get, and it was so bad and overpowered that they actually nerfed it on Sunday morning. So 2 days of playing, it was abused so much, like people who were good with it would not die, because it was regenerating their health so quickly that once they use it, nobody could kill them. So they went in and they completely tweaked that mid-beta, which you hardly ever see. And so that
means it was interfering with other data they were trying
probably
to collect.
Right. Yep. And basically what they did was they reduced the max duration that it lasted, and it no longer increased health regeneration speed. So you couldn't regenerate your health much more quickly like you could when they first launched the beta. Also, any damage that you took would interrupt the health regeneration as well. And once they did that, it solved the problem, which makes you wonder, like, why wasn't it that way to begin with? I don't know. You still have your ultimate, like you've had in the last couple Call of Duties. It's on a cooldown, but honestly, they just seem like less fun and not very exciting. One is a comm scrambler. It's like, it almost looks like an Ethernet router that you throw down on the ground, and all it does is like keep the other team from communicating with each other. And it's like, it shows up on the mini map for them, and you can see it. It's like it's like bright yellow, and it's huge, and it sits on the ground. Like, it literally would last like 10 seconds before they would destroy it. Like, it just seemed pointless to me. So I wasn't a big fan of that one. There was another one which was just a box that you threw on the ground that like would capture points even if no one on your team was there. So at first I was like, oh, there's strategy. I can hide this like in a bush or whatever. But again, it also appears on the minimap and make like a noise. And so again, the other team would find it almost immediately and destroy it. Or people just throw grenades at the points. That's just how you play. You're like, oh, I guarantee you there's somebody on the point. I'm just going to throw a grenade at it, and it would blow up the box. So a lot of the supers in this I did not find particularly fun or interesting or all that functional inside the context of the game. So I was kind of disappointed in that. Also, the kill streaks and the score streaks felt uninspired. There's a couple new ones. There's a weird like wind turret thing called a Guardian SC. That you could see it right there. You see the wind blowing through the window?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what that was supposed to be.
So you put it at the point, so if the enemy comes and tries to capture the point, it blows them away. It literally keeps them from getting to the point.
It almost looks like a glitch.
And it does kind of. And it makes them like a sitting duck because they're frozen by the wind and you can just shoot them and kill them. So it's kind of one of those things you just use to protect like a flag.
Is that a real thing?
No. That definitely not a real thing, Matt.
A little off the mission statement there.
Yeah. And then there's another. Then the final one that you could get was a Juggernaut, where you throw a grenade and it would just send down this crazy Juggernaut suit that you would get in. And that was fun because you're crazy overpowered, but you don't really have awesome weapons. And as soon as people know the Juggernaut's on the map, the whole team just comes after you. Like, every time I got it, I was dead within like 15 seconds. And the most kills I got with the Juggernaut suit was 2. So they might want to do some tweaking to that as well, because it's all, again, it was the top kill streak on the board. That's the best one that you could get. And like literally the most kills I got with it was 2. So I'm thinking they might want to do some tweaking to that or some changes to that. The lethals are also tweaked a little bit. There's a Claymore according to Activision, but I never saw it in any loadouts. I never saw another player using Claymores. But like if you go and like I didn't think they were in the game at all. Like I didn't think there were Claymores or any kind of a trip mine or a proximity mine. And I was like, that's weird. They've been in every freaking game, and I love them. Like, typically, I use them in a game. So I went to the official Call of Duty website, and the website says they're in the game, and that they should be in the beta. I never saw anyone use them. I never found them. I never found a loadout where I could select them. But again, going back to what I was saying earlier about the vests, like, depending on what vest you have equipped, it changes your loadout and what you can and cannot equip. So my guess is I just never used the right vest that would let me use the proximity mines. I don't know. They're claymores. But I never found them. And again, I never saw anybody else using them in the entire beta. And I played pretty much every day for the entire weekend. Some other issues that I had, it was very difficult for me to tell the difference between my team and the enemy. Because the blue...
I'm having trouble with that watching the footage.
Yep, because the blue and the red icons above them, like, it used to be the enemies would have a red nameplate. And so it was very easy to tell.
Now it looks like there's a tiny little blue dot on your allies.
Yep, that's it. It took me 2.5 days before I could confidently know, like, instantly, by seeing a scene, who the enemies were and who the teammates were. My guess is they're going to tweak that as well. I think they'll end up adding the red nameplates back in because it's just something that's so simple that makes the game needlessly difficult to play. So I think that will come around.
I feel like you should get more than 100 XP for taking out a Predator drone.
Yeah, I don't know. It's easy because it's the drones are like the first like kill streak or whatever. So you only need like 3 kills. So they're constantly going up. And like I always have a launcher to take them down. Like I could roll up crazy points in a match by just taking down the drones. So I kind of understand why they haven't balanced that way. It's always been that way in all Call of Duties. Like you take down the drone, you get 100 points and that's pretty much it. So I don't really have a big problem with it as somebody who uses a launcher and likes to take those things down as much as I can.
Right. I'm just in actual combat, that would be a rather impressive achievement.
Huge. Yeah. Oh, yeah, because it takes away the mini-map.
Yeah.
Which is a big deal in Call of Duty. And what else? I think that's it. Again, the beta returns on Friday for another round, and it's on all platforms. All of you will be able to play it this coming weekend. And they've already said that there's going to be a bunch of new stuff. There's that
it
air
looks
turret.
like a glitch.
It's so dumb. And they've already said that there will be new maps this weekend. There will be new guns this weekend. There will be new perks and
new
other
maps
stuff.
As in like old maps, but not in the beta yet, or new maps as in new maps?
No, as in old maps. Yeah. They just aren't in the beta yet. Yeah. And again, they added a new map on Sunday. They added Rust, like out of nowhere. I had no idea that was going to be included, and it just started popping up in the rotation. I was like, woo, at first. And then I started playing on Rust, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this map. I used to avoid this map because there's really no skill involved. It's just like a massacre pretty much all the way across the map. So there you go. That's my experience playing the Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer beta. I did have fun with it. I had stopped playing Modern Warfare 2 months ago and uninstalled it, by the way, because it was like 180 gigs. And as we started coming into Q4, I'm like, I'm going to need that space. And so I just deleted it a couple months ago, so I hadn't played it for a couple months. Jumping back in here, I will say it does feel samey. I realize I just talked about a bunch of different changes that have been made to the multiplayer, and you're probably like, oh, wow, that sounds like a lot of changes. The truth is, though, when you actually sit down and you start playing it, it doesn't feel all that different from last year's game, which makes sense if you're going to be able to bring in all the stuff that you unlocked in the last game into this one. And I'll say this, Matt, like, I hope this doesn't continue, because if this is what's keeping the games feel so similar to each other, I like more of a deviation between installments of Call of Duty is what I'm getting at. While at the same time, I will admit that I have said in the past that they need to make it a platform instead of releasing a game every year. So maybe I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here. But it does feel very samey to Modern Warfare 2, ultimately. Now, there's a campaign that is a direct continuation of last year's game. And there is an open world zombies mode, which has never happened before. And I've not been a fan of zombies mode, but I'm going to give it another chance now. So there's a possibility it could be way better. But ultimately, it does feel and play very similar with some slight tweaks here and there. And my guess is, I feel like they're going to roll back some of those tweaks and make it even more like Modern Warfare 2 when it's all said and done. And I'll say this too, like, I did not enjoy Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer all that much. Of the last, 5 Call of Duties, I probably played that one the least. So take that for what it's worth. But I did have fun ultimately playing it because, again, I hadn't played it for a few months because I kind of stopped playing to try to free up hard drive space. AJ the Legend asked, did you feel better about your KD skills after playing this and your time with Counter-Strike? Oh, yeah, of course. Like, you saw the B-roll. Like, I have no problem getting kills in Call of Duty. I'm guessing my KD for this ended up being, 1.2 or 1.3, something like that, roughly. My first day was rough. It seemed like people had been playing for a long time. Like, I got in, I was level 1, and people were already, level 15 and unlocked a bunch of stuff. I mean, that's the Call of Duty thing. It's like, you have an advantage the longer you've played it because you've unlocked all the perks and all the attachments and all the guns and things like that. Meanwhile, there's me with like a pea shooter using the default loadouts or whatever. It takes a little while to relearn the maps and the flow and the choke points and the good places to sit and wait and all that kind of stuff. By the end of the weekend, I was finishing every match with a positive KD. Counter-Strike, that never happened. I just getting my ass whooped from the minute I started to the minute I finished. But again, with Counter-Strike, you have people that have been playing the game for 20-some years or whatever, and they're just going to be good. So, Johnny Hurricane says, y'all ever get a nuke in any of the Modern Warfares? Have I ever had a nuke? No. I've never had a kill streak long enough to fire off a nuke. Ever.
I did.
Did you?
During a review event.
Really?
Which I don't think counts.
Yeah. That kind of does.
They suck.
Yeah.
Like it,
I mean, my KD at Call of Duty review events was usually like 1.6,
yeah,
1.7.
It's a different way. It's not online. I've
Yeah.
never gotten a nuke online, but I've gotten a nuke a couple times at review events.
At like LAN stuff. Yeah, I've never had one in a live game. I've never had a nuke. I think what was it? Was it 20 or 25 or something?
25,
like
I think, was the one.
So I've had kill streaks of 20 or 25 before, but they were never in the game that had the nuke.
Yeah.
So I've never had one. Have you, Johnny? Have you ever managed to pull
I have dropped 2 nukes in Call of Duty games.
Yeah.
And they didn't really even matter.
Well, it just turns the whole screen white.
Right.
It just wipes everything out,
You just
basically.
win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels good.
Yeah.
It has to feel good. Yeah, I don't know, Johnny, if you've ever managed to do it, but I've never managed to. I don't know if any of you guys in chat have ever managed to do it either.
And I'm not a hugely great shooter player, but apparently I did remember things better year to year than a lot of people that came to the review events.
Yeah.
Because I'm I know I've played against you people before, and a lot of you were better than me, but you're not better than me right now, so I'm just going to take it.
I knew who all the good players were who were journalists. Because if you I would go to the review event every year, you figure it out. Like, after 2 years, you know who's good and who sucks.
And like sometimes that was just like because I wasn't in a game with one of those people.
Yeah.
Where you're like, okay, if you're in the game with that guy,
you're not mopping me up.
He's got 50 kills, everyone else has 20. You know, like,
you figure out very quickly who the good journalists were and who the journalists were who just had to go because they had nobody else to send to the event or whatever. Very
like
quickly.
a one-person
like
thing.
our friend Abby at G4, she was very good.
Oh, yeah. Abby was very, very
She
good.
and I, every review event, sat beside each other.
Yeah.
And we just sat there for the whole weekend playing multiplayer, making fun of people who weren't as good.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, again, don't forget, there's a beta coming this weekend. You guys all can participate in. It's free to download. You won't have to have pre-ordered the game or anything to play it, and it's also on Xbox this weekend. I'm Dimfire. If you want to add me, I'll probably play at least a little bit this weekend, although there's a bunch of other games where I have to jump on for. I mean, it's just kind of that way for the rest of the year at this point. So I'll try to jump in there, but I did spend a good bit of time playing it this weekend and kind of got my fill, and now it's kind of waiting for the final version. But there you go. That's the multiplayer beta for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. And that's 3, not the number 3. That's something that drives me crazy. It's like websites. I know how they do it. It's for SEO. Because when somebody types in Modern Warfare 3, they don't type the 3 I's. They type the number 3. Even though Activision has intentionally used the 3 I's in this to delineate it from the 2009 game or whatever. But like when I'm curating, like all the websites just use the numerical for every game. Even though like, Baldur's Gate 3 is stylized with 3 I's, but every website uses 3 for, just for SEO purposes, for search engine stuff. It drives me crazy, and I'm like OCD about it, so I always change it. So every time I curate a piece of content where they use the number and it's incorrect, I go in and I change it for the curation on Sifted. I know, it's pathetic, but I do have some weird OCDs with grammar and syntax and stuff that I just have not managed to defeat throughout my many years on this planet. So anyway, there you go. That's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 beta. Check it out this weekend. Our final topic for today's episode is what I hinted at earlier, which was a game that when I saw it for the first time, I made fun of it mercilessly, and I'm just copping to it. I totally lambasted it. I thought it looked horrible. I laughed at it, but then I played it, and I feel completely different about it, and that is RoboCop Rogue City. I never dreamed that I would be sitting here. I never even thought I would cover it in the show, because I thought the game looked so bad that it wasn't going to be worth covering. I was wrong. So Assassin's Creed Mirage, I got that intuition. I ended up being right. RoboCop, I got the intuition, and I ended up being wrong.
Yeah, I always had a little bit of hope for this one because it's the same developers as Terminator Resistance, which is a lot better than you think it is. For no good reason.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't need to be any better, but like that one's pretty good. And this one is even more than that. It's like I always remember there's an old penny arcade strip from back in the day with the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer game on Xbox, and the first panel is just Gabe saying like, "Hey, get in here! This Buffy game is great, and I don't know why." Like that's basically this.
Yeah.
It's like this is.
I kept waiting for it to suck, and it never did.
This is a first-person shooter RPG light pseudo open world game, and it's about as good as a RoboCop game is ever going to be.
It really is. I mean, they could have spent a little bit more money on it, but it would be pointless. Like
this is the B-level game people complain don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And with all the presentational issues that the company
entails,
has, it's Unreal 5, so sometimes it looks amazing and sometimes it doesn't. Yes, of course you can shoot the bad guys in the groin.
Yep, Zayd Saber, you absolutely can.
Of course, the two most useful places to shoot them are the head and the groin. Sometimes guys show up with helmets on that inexplicably can take multiple shots from a military cannon.
I do love the sound effect when you hit the helmet, though.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. So you just shoot them in the balls, and that's the end of that.
You shoot them in the groin.
I mean, you can rip people apart, and
this game is gory.
There's Soldier of Fortune level gore in this.
It is. Gore is insane.
Very, very violent. I mean, appropriately.
Yeah, it should be.
It's RoboCop.
Again, like they nail the IP in this. They totally nail every part.
Nail it.
All for better and worse. All the best parts of the IP, all the bad parts or the funny parts of the IP, all of it. It's all in here.
It is clearly made by people who care about RoboCop it is set after RoboCop 2.
In between 2 and 3.
It is already a better story than RoboCop 3.
There's the lead singer from Prodigy.
Yes, as
rest in peace, by the way.
Soot.
It's a little offensive to me, honestly, that they did that.
Is that really supposed to be him?
It's not supposed to be him. It's just obviously
like
him. Yeah. Who's now passed away.
But he, so he's the leader of
the torch heads.
The torch heads, the fire starters.
Yeah, exactly.
It comes down to it.
Exactly.
So the basic premise is like there's a new guy in town. That's literally what they call him.
Which they never explain who the hell he is.
Well, yeah, because it's a demo.
But it's literally, they call him the new guy. It's like a running joke in the demo.
Yeah, he's a new guy.
That they won't tell you who the new guy is.
Well, yeah, because I'm sure you'll find out eventually.
Don't you think it's weird, though, how it's like this thing?
It's the beginning.
They keep calling him the new guy, and nobody ever asks, well, who the fuck is the new guy?
Nobody knows. That's why he takes over that TV station, because he's like, we know the new guy is interested in dealing, and we want to be the people you do crime with.
I want to sell drugs to the new guy.
We want to be the people you do crimes with. So that's why they do this, and then RoboCop shows up, and that's the thing, is like, so you walk up and you talk to some people, and then you go into the TV station, and you go into the TV station, you walk through the fire, the RoboCop theme plays, a bunch of punks run out with guns, you blow their fucking heads and balls off, and I'm like, holy shit, they did it! Like, this is RoboCop. This is absolutely RoboCop. Like, the thing that I wasn't expecting was after the shooting was done, there's like, it's an RPG. Like, there's a whole open area, and you can walk around and solve side quests and scan things and put detective mysteries together and give people parking tickets, and like, it's crazy. Like, it's really pretty good.
I can't believe it.
Like, it's RoboCop walks pretty slow because he's RoboCop. You can sprint, which is
like there's a stick shoved up his ass.
Because there is. It's metal.
Right.
And you can sprint, which is mostly just like walking slightly faster, but just fast enough to not be annoying.
Yeah.
Though I saw an interview with the developers who basically said like that was the thing we went back and forth on the hardest in this game, was how fast he should move, because you don't want him to move too fast.
He does have a sprint though.
He does, but it's just sort of a brisk power walk. But like,
here's what I don't get. So what happened out here? Like, they're in the TV studio, and they challenge you, like, send RoboCop to the TV. You get here, and it's like a nuclear bomb went off outside the TV station.
Oh, I think they just tore everything up as they were coming in.
They just killed everybody they saw on the way in?
That seems to be their MO. I mean, it's RoboCop. That's that's what old Detroit is in RoboCop. It's just like random shit. Like, this is Reagan-era shit.
It is.
They do remember that this is a satire. They do remember that. One of the brilliant things about this game is, this is the RoboCop game they would have made in like 1989 if the technology had existed. Yeah. Like, it's got the mentality, it's got the presentation, it's got, like, there's a side quest where you're hunting down this dealer who's like apparently he's undercharging for the drugs, and the other dealers are trying to kill him, and he gets cornered up on the roof before RoboCop gets up there, and the other dealers corner him, and he's like, "Oh my God, don't kill me!" And they're like, "We're not going to kill you. We want to talk to you about your economic theory of what." And it's like this scene where they like argue with him about, basically they're going back and forth about supply side economics and like how he's going to like undercut this, and then the capital is not going to be there, and the product like it's like Econ 101 shit, and then RoboCop comes in and is like, "I can solve your supply problem." It's like
he's got the best one line,
but it's very funny. Like it's like, oh, that's absolutely how Verhoeven would play that scene.
Yeah.
It's like it gets the tone, it gets the idea. Peter Weller is back as RoboCop. It's his face and his voice, which is cool because Peter Weller has embraced being RoboCop again. Everyone else is terrible.
And then, the voice acting in this is awful. But then there's also like heartfelt moments where you actually make you think. Like he starts glitching out after a mission, and people notice because it's on camera. And suddenly the populace is like, "Oh my God, RoboCop is like crazy. He's just going to start killing us. Like nobody trusts him anymore." And that becomes a huge plot point in the game, and actually ties into the RPG stuff because one of the things that you can improve is his psychology.
Yeah.
It's like I just am completely blown away by this game.
And there's all the dialogue choices you can make, and like you have choices of the 3 prime directives, which are serve the public, trust, uphold the law, and protect the innocent. And all the dialogue choices, they variously support one or the other, and you have to figure out which one. And depending on which one of the prime directives you favor, will change how people react to you, and it can make allies or enemies out of various characters, which will come back to haunt you in later quests.
Yeah.
Which is way more than anyone needed to do in a RoboCop game. Like it's remarkable.
Yeah. And basically what you do is you show up at the TV station, you fight through the TV station, you finish it off, and then you go back to the police station. And once you get back there, they hook you up to this machine, and it like grades you on your last mission, and then you level up based upon how you did in that mission, and you get extra points for accomplishing side missions and all this other like extra stuff that you can do that'll help boost your score and help you level up more. And then you go and there's a skill tree that you use to level up. There's 8 different categories. There's like 6 or 7 different upgrades per category.
Pro tip, when you first see that, they give you 3 points to put in. Put 2 of them in deduction, which gives you scanning that can give you more information when you scan things. Trust me.
That's the other thing.
That's the first thing you want.
This is like a detective game, too. Like, you are a cop, and you go in, and you scan stuff, and you find clues.
There is, like, mystery solving, at least on the level of, like, the Arkham games in this.
It's crazy.
It's the best RoboCop game that will ever be made.
I played another side mission where, like, this woman's husband was missing. It was, like, a 40-minute side mission. Yeah. I'm like, what the hell am I playing?
The demo's like 3 hours long to do everything.
It took me 2 hours to finish.
It's remarkably. It's clear because also clearly they knew they needed to prove something.
Yeah,
like, they're like, we need to show people what this game is.
It's on Steam. It's like 40 gigs. Like you can go download.
That was the other thing. I'm like, why is this 40 gigs? And it's because they give you a whole open world section.
Yeah, it's really crazy. So I was shocked at how much investigation stuff there was. Like, there's also the typical like
the side quests are they're not very well performed, but they're well written.
Yeah. But Matt said earlier, like, there's eventually you can go out in like this small open world like downtown area where you go around and like there's criminals just doing stuff and you scan them and it'll tell you if they're up to no good. You find side missions. You can, as Matt said, you can write like parking tickets and stuff. Like it's just crazy.
Yeah. And it does take place in like 1989 or not 1999, but it takes place in the era of RoboCop. So it's still CRT TVs. Yeah. And like there's an arcade you go into where there's way more different arcade machines in there than they needed to design for that scene. But they're in there. You
can see there's destructible environments in the game.
You're constantly destroying things. Like even like in a little side quest, you go in like a chop shop at one point, and I shot a guy as he was holding a grenade, and he dropped it, and all the cars in the entire garage exploded. Yeah, and the whole like a balcony collapsed. Like it was
little stuff like that kept happening the whole way through this demo. Like I was just like, what is going on?
The sound effects are all right there. The footsteps are exactly right. The AIM-9 pistol is AIM-9 pistol does not sound right in the preview footage. It does sound right in the demo.
It does, yeah.
And then like you know how little use I have for a controller rumble. Yeah. But the controller rumble plus the sound effect of the AIM-9 pistol, dead on.
Oh, they nailed the pistol. The machine pistol is amazing. Like I ended up like you can pick up weapons off the ground, assault rifles, SMGs. No, I prefer to use the pistol.
Pistol's better.
Oh yeah.
Pistol, it's the size of somebody's arm.
It's the head popper. Yeah. You shoot him in the head and pop, and the fountain of blood spread. It's crazy. And the way the game plays out after you, so you don't actually, it's not like open world in that you go back to the police station, they give you the data, you level up and all that, and then you walk out the station and you walk to the next destination. You go out and you get in a car, which is absurd. Like, you're like this gigantic robot and somehow you're fitting in like a Cutlass.
Yep. We don't think about it.
Yeah.
And he drives like a maniac.
And it shows a cutscene of him driving to the next location, and then you get out, and then there's a little open world area outside the location, and then you go in.
It's more like it's like Deus Ex.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Little areas you can go to. Yep. There's a lot of references to the movies, like real deep level stuff, like the like there's references to TJ Laser, which is the character his kid likes. That he does the spinning the gun thing. That's from that in the original movie. One of the hideouts I was in, a bunch of guys had Nukem, the nuclear family like battleship game that there's a commercial for in the first movie. They have that set up on a table.
That's awesome.
Like it's really
crazy.
There's like love and care in this thing, and like when you breach stuff, like it shows like go slow mo. You can also get the slow mo as an actual like standalone ability. When you go in for like hostage stuff, you have to kill them before the slow mo ends, or they'll turn and kill the hostages, and you get penalized. And there was a side quest I did where they killed the guy I was trying to save, and the side quest just failed. So I had to reload. And if you reload it, you get a whole other dialogue scene, and it leads into another quest later.
Yep. Like you bust in the door, and it goes into slow mo, and you have X amount of time before the slow mo goes away, and you have to kill all the terrorists or the. And
you can get if you upgrade the skill enough, you can add time to the slow mo for everyone you kill during the slow mo.
Yeah. Also, the overlay targeting is very helpful. Yeah, it helps you. It pulls people out of the environments that are blending in.
There's a reason he has it.
Yeah,
and one of the things I love is if you watch while you move, as you step, the whole HUD rattles with his steps
because you're so heavy.
Because he's so heavy, which really sells the idea of being RoboCop.
Yeah.
And he takes tons of damage.
Well, the game is different. So this isn't like a game where you hide behind cover or whatever. You literally just walk straight at the enemies.
You walk on through.
Because you can take so much damage, and you're just constantly hitting B to like replenish your health or whatever. Like, it's just you really are just kind of managing your depletion of health with your replenishing of health, and as long as you keep an eye on it, like you're good. Like I don't think I died at all in this.
No, it'd be very tough to die as long as you keep paying attention, I think.
Yeah. You can also punch. You can pick up objects and throw them. You can throw objects hard enough that it kills people if you hit them in the legs.
Yeah, you can throw almost any. You can throw other people. You throw people into things.
Yeah, you can take them as a bullet shield and then throw them.
It's all physics based, so you never know what's going to really happen, which is fun. I did throw a guy through a wall at one point. Like it's just like the wall just crumbled as he fell. There's a lot in here.
Yeah, the hit detection's great. The aim assist is a little aggressive. Like it's more aggressive than playing Call of Duty. I was going back and forth. Yeah,
sometimes I can see, like, especially when you're using the aiming with this, it'll try to aim itself towards whoever you highlighted last. Yeah. And sometimes I found myself like I highlighted this guy as I'm dragging over to hit this guy, and it'll keep dragging back to the other guy. That's the only like really problematic thing I found here.
Yeah, like in the second mission at the arcade, there's all these gas tanks that you pick up and throw, and they're there to. It's like the way the level is designed. They're like, here's a tank, here's a group of 8 dudes. Use the tank, Shane. Pick up the tank, throw the tank, and blow up all 8 of them at once. Like the game is encouraging you to incur as much carnage as possible. It's great. Like
because like there is no bonus for doing less damage.
No,
it's the 80s.
Yeah,
like the cops can do whatever the hell they want, even to a degree that especially in this world. Like there's no,
the music is ripped straight.
The
from
only
the
thing they complain about is when you do too much police work.
Right.
Like there's a quest where they're like, well, LCP won't pay any more money to solve this murder because they don't care because it was a prostitute. And it's like, well, I don't care if people are poor. And RoboCop's like, we must bring justice, and like that. And so that's how that starts. Yeah, and that turns into like an hour-long side quest. Like
Matt, this game is way better than it has any business being.
Vastly better than it should be.
It's like, really insane.
Like this is going to be the game where you're like trying to convince people, like, no, really,
I'm not kidding. Like it really is that good. We're going to have to do it in like a few weeks when this game comes out for good. I have a feeling.
Yeah, the only like there was some. It was a little hitchy and. Texture pop in. They did put up a huge patch a couple days ago that fixed a lot of that, which I think I've rarely seen a multi-gig patch for a demo, but here we are.
Yeah, you also scan to solve simple puzzles like the Switch puzzle and like...
So it runs better now. I mean, it's got the Unreal Engine 5 issues where it's like, there's going to be texture blur pop in. There's going to be some weirdness. It's very uneven presentation in places where, like, sometimes it looks amazing, sometimes you have to stare at Ann Lewis's face for too long.
Yep.
Some of the voice acting might be AI because some of it is just really doesn't feel like a human would read
really
it that
doesn't.
way. There's a couple of lines that I'm just like, okay, no one inflects that way in English, so either you are not a native speaker or you were AI. I'm not sure which is
There's
which.
typo in the subtitle.
There's a bunch of typos. There's a lot of typos in the HUD.
Yeah.
Which
But whatever.
Which I can't tell is if that's intentional or not.
Yeah.
But
Endo
yeah.
Shellington asked, "Did you not play the Terminator game?"
I played Terminator Resistance. It's on the same level as that.
Yeah.
That was all there.
Yeah.
This is better than
It
Terminator
is better.
Resistance.
Oh, absolutely, it's better.
But
yeah.
Terminator Resistance is getting. I think that's coming. The remastered or the revamped new gen version is coming to Xbox at the end of the month, and it's already on PS5. That game's pretty good too, and you can get it for like $5 sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys basically made like weird preschool garbage for years and ports of things, and all of a sudden they did Terminator Resistance, and now they did this, and it's just like, what the hell? Like these Polish guys, this is Polish
Getting it
dev
done.
team
Yeah.
that just seem to know exactly how to
How
capture
did they nail like all the '80s stuff? Like that's where this stuff like this fails.
I mentioned that to one of my friends and who's from over there, and he said they grew up in it. He's like they grew up in Eastern Europe. They know what RoboCop's supposed to feel like. And I'm like, all right, fair
enough.
Can someone please give these guys the Predator license?
Right.
Where I finally get a good game out of that shit.
Maybe, yeah. But anyway, both Matt and I are like blown away by RoboCop Rogue City. Like one of the most pleasant surprises of 2023.
I would, in fact, buy that for $1.
Yeah, as the lower third says.
Maybe $60
for $1. So anyway, again, that's RoboCop Rogue City. It's coming to everything, including Switch. In fact, I had to like go and double research to make sure it really is coming to Switch, and they say it is.
Yeah, I don't think I'd get that version.
Yeah, I would probably stick with one of the other ones, but it's coming to pretty much every platform. It's coming this year, so not much longer to wait. RoboCop Rogue City, that's Matt and I both have really
Endo
encouraged.
Skeleton seems to be one of the devs.
Oh, really?
We're
No
huge
way.
gigantic fans who take this films a bit too seriously. I spent months redoing the music for Terminator. See, like I said, I knew as soon as the title screen came up, and the title screen of RoboCop is a sad piano version of the RoboCop theme from the first movie, I'm like, okay, there's something happening here.
Well, here's a round of applause for Endo Shellington. Already for the work that you've done on this game, and it's not even done yet.
So yeah.
Always great to
Well
see
done.
devs in our chat. And I'll be honest with you, it seems like every show there's at least 5 devs in our chat. So welcome to GameFace if you haven't been here before. And I hope you come back. And hopefully you do a good job finishing the game. We're really excited to play more of it. But anyway, that's it for RoboCop Rogue City. It's time we're going to do a little bit of Q&A. We're not going to do a Name That Game today, so start getting your questions into the chat. Go ask it to games so we can pick them out from all the rest of the comments. But before then, here's a word from our sponsor, SoundWizardry.com.
Experience the realm of extraordinary audio with Sound Wizardry. With a decade-long journey in sound design, we animate your movies and video games with the breath of sound. Our wide-ranging services include sound design, Foley, sound mixing and mastering, audio implementation, dialogue mastering, and the crafting of unique sound effects from freshly recorded material. Our portfolio contains Baldur's Gate 3, Steven Universe, Alan Wake 2, Gwent, Cyberpunk 2077, and more. Visit soundwizardry.com and let us transmute your vision into an auditory marvel.
What a resume that is. Mm-hmm. You got Alan Wake 2, which, by the way, whether you're into Alan Wake 2 or not, go watch some of the trailers and listen to the sound in Alan Wake 2. I'll tell you what, that's one part of the game that's going to be awesome. They worked on that. They worked on Baldur's Gate 3. I'm sure all you guys have already played that and realized how great the sound is in that. Go to soundwizardry.com if you need any kind of sound work at all, whether it's games, commercials, trailers, or I just call him sometimes whenever we just have like a problem with like GameFace or whatever, and he hooks me up every time. So anyway, go to soundwizardry.com. They are truly the wizards of audio. Hit them up if you need any sound-related help. With that, let's get to some Q&A before we finish off the show today. We don't have much time to answer too many questions, but I think you guys are okay. I think you guys would prefer that we talk about the games as much as we can, but maybe we can answer like 2. JM Rain, thank you for all the Tier 1 subs you're gifting to our chat. That's awesome. Some people... Oh, I saw that Pharaoh Doll was trying to get them to pick up the Predator license.
The big four like R-rated sci-fi things of the 80s to me are Terminator, Predator, Aliens, and RoboCop. And so if we want to give these guys Predator and Aliens, I am entirely fine with that. It seems like they know how to do this.
Zet Saber, which has the better theme song, Terminator or RoboCop?
If we're gonna go first movie, I'd say RoboCop, but I think Brad Fiedel's rearrangement of the Terminator theme in Terminator 2 is phenomenal.
I go RoboCop. It's just catchier in my opinion.
RoboCop is very catchy.
Eth Demon, what do you think?
Which means it's even weirder they didn't use the fucking theme going forward.
Eth Demon's asking about Game of the Year. We never answer Game of the Year questions. We always save that for our Game of the Year.
If you're asking about Game Awards, though, I think that's going to be Zelda.
Yeah, for like Keeley's thing, like what other?
But everything, I mean, it's all the big Game Award things are down to Zelda versus Baldur's Gate.
Yep, pretty much.
There's no question.
MK Ness, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome, man. Looks like RoboCop is truly a passion project. Any other IPs you'd like to have? I think he's talking to the developer of the game.
Well, he's talking to you.
Oh, he is?
He highlighted Sifted Games.
Oh.
But I mean, I already said Aliens and Predator.
Yeah, we already talked about it. Yeah. AJ, we don't have time for Matt to give his opinions on. Maybe next episode.
I thought it was fine.
Okay. A lot of people were really bagging on it. What do you think of Midnight Suns? We talked about Midnight Suns for like 40 minutes on a prior episode of GameFace. Just go find the episode.
I love Midnight Suns.
Yeah.
It's a shame it didn't do better.
JM Rain. Not sci-fi, but what about Arnold's Commando? That could be a game. Best movie ever.
It could be a game, but it'd be just like every other military thing ever. Like, there's no hook there, I don't think.
Lesteved, thank you for dropping the tier 1 subs into our chat. That's awesome. He is obviously the owner of LS Cream. He's a great ally to Sifted and one of your great allies as well. And then finally from Mike's Q, is it just me or has comedy movies really fallen off? Everything from the Ben Stiller era onwards seems not worth the time.
I honestly haven't cared about comedy movies since Jim Carrey got big.
Really?
Not into the comedy. I mean, sometimes, but like most mainstream comedy films have nothing to offer me.
I won't go to the theater to see comedy movies anymore.
Yeah, I generally haven't.
I'm just like, why? I can watch that on my couch and like I can drink a beer while I watch it and maybe I'll laugh more at it.
You gotta go way back. I mean, you're talking about like Naked Gun.
Right.
I would see in the theater.
Yeah,
or
Tommy Boy, stuff like that.
Not even that.
I saw Tommy Boy and I fell asleep in the theater at Tommy Boy. I thought it was terrible. And then I watched it again later, and I was like, what was wrong with me that night? Like, I was just in a funk, I guess, because that movie's hilarious.
Austin Powers, I like the first couple of those.
I saw those in theaters, yeah.
I can't keep the jokes in those straight, though. I always think the one joke is from one of them, and it's from a different one.
Yeah.
But in general, like, comedy...
You put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Yeah, comedy doesn't really age well anyway, so like to me, I'm more interested in stuff that stands the test of time. There's some, like Mel Brooks stuff is generally pretty solid, like...
I ended up watching the Cannonball Run when I was at that cabin out in the middle of nowhere for that weekend. It just came on the TV, and I started watching it, and like it was still pretty funny.
Yeah, some stuff does. I mean, most of John Candy's stuff holds up. A lot of Bill Murray stuff holds up.
It just feels like comedies.
Groundhog Day is an all-time great.
It feels like horror movies have overtaken comedy films.
Yeah, that's true. Horror is a big trend right now.
It really is. And I love horror, and I don't go to the movies to see it.
And I don't know if I've only laughed at one thing Ben Stiller has ever done ever, and that's in Mystery Men. When they're doing the training scene and the Enigma West Studi says, you must master your rage. And then he goes, or my rage will be my master?
Yeah.
That's what you're going to say, right? And he's like, maybe. Like, I laughed at that.
I thought there were funny moments in the first Meet the Fockers.
I just don't like Ben Stiller's thing. I do like in Happy Gilmore where he says, you can trouble me for a warm glass of shut the hell up.
Yeah,
like
that's a good line.
That's good. He's good in like a bit part to me, but I can't watch a movie that's all... I'll tell you when comedies really were over for me is when every comedy started to be... The poster was all white with a picture of the cast and a red title.
Yeah.
What the fuck was that? When did that happen?
It was just
why is that the universal symbol for comedy?
It's just data. It's just like we talk about like box art for video games. Like a lot of times it's very simple because they figured out the more simple it is, the more it catches their eye. So I'm sure there's some kind of focus group testing.
It's funny watching people get mad that they think the covers for the Spider-Man games are so boring because it's just pictures of the character.
Right.
And I'm like... I know you want like a fancy ass like weird, but I guarantee you they know that the best way to sell a Spider-Man game is to put Spider-Man on the cover with nothing else distracting you from him and go.
Yeah, yep, it makes sense. All right, that's going to do it for GameFace episode 361. Once again, thanks big time to our sponsors at LS Cream and SoundWizardry.com. They are making a huge difference for us, and you can make a huge difference for us too. You can head to patreon.com/sifted. You can pledge whatever you want per month. $1, $4 gets you all our content early, and by early, you get GameFace 4 days early, you get Pactor Factor a week early, all the rest of our content at least 3 days early. And that's a big difference between our Patreon and a lot of others. A lot of others, you get like a day of exclusivity before it goes on YouTube. We hook up our patrons a lot more. So if you'd like to help us out on a permanent basis, that's a great way to do it. But if you don't have any money, there's a couple different ways you can help us. If you're listening to this show on a podcast app right now, put it down, go and review us on that app right now. It's free, and it can make a huge, huge difference for us. We really, really appreciate it if you could do that. And also, you can actually give us money for free, too. If you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can help us out by subscribing to our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/siftedgames with your free Amazon Prime, Twitch Prime sub. Just go to the URL I just gave you, and after you've connected your accounts, you just click on the subscribe button. It drops down, choose free Prime sub, and you're done. It takes 3 seconds once you've done it the first time. There are instructions down below if you're watching this on YouTube on how to do it for the first time. After that, it's easy peasy. So, Matt, thanks again for another awesome show and for opening up your place for us to do GameFace. Thanks to all you guys who showed up on chat, people who are dropping bits and dropping subs in our chat. You guys are flipping awesome. We love all you guys. The fact-checking in real time makes the show better. We're back next week with more big games. I know Forza Motorsport for sure is going to be in next week's episode. A couple other ones. Lords of the Fallen comes out, I think, today or Friday?
Friday, I think.
And that's like a really good Souls-like, so pretty much all the episodes for the rest of the year are going to rock, and we're going to be here for it, and I hope you guys will show up and support us as well. So everybody have a great week. Play some awesome games. We'll see you next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.